You did this to us.
You did.
You made CanJam SoCal 2024 by far the biggest CanJam we've had to date.
Yes.
Now, you know I'm just teasing, guys. We love you, and we can't wait to see you at CanJam SoCal 2024. But this is, because it's such a big show, by far the longest preview video we've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid long.
Yeah.
We've been living here pretty much day and night.
For weeks.
Yeah. To get this done, and we can't wait to see you.
Yeah, so CanJam SoCal is taking place September 28th and 29th at the Irvine Marriott Hotel in Irvine, California, and I cannot wait to get back out there.
I can't wait to get there either.
So, Joe, roll tape.
We're going to talk about over-ear headphones at CanJam SoCal.
Right.
And in preparing to shoot the segment, we were debating kind of back and forth about which headphone to start with. And then we remembered we're going to CanJam SoCal.
Yes.
And the SoCal Head-Fi community is still one of our biggest, if not our biggest Head-Fi community in the world.
I think they're still the largest.
And they are still very much into the flagship stuff. Flagship over-ears, therefore, would be of great interest to them.
Oh, yeah.
And so we decided to start with several over-ear headphones that are flagship class, kind of cost no object type, and looking at this grouping here, some of the most resolving non-electrostatic headphones ever made.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to start with.
Now, we went ahead and sat down, and we still hadn't decided which one to start with, but you picked up the Raw 1995 Imanis.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start there. From everything that we have on the table, this is clearly the most recent arrival for us.
Yeah, for us,
Yeah.
this is the most recent.
Yes.
I mean, this is our Unveiled is also extremely new, but
Yes.
this just arrived. So this is the RAL 1995 Imanis. You guys might remember RAL Requisite, the SR1A, same company.
Yeah.
It's RAL. So this is RAL 1995 is what they're called for this headphone.
For this and the Magna.
And the Magna, which we'll talk about in another part of this segment. So the RAL 1995 Imanis is their flagship. If you're familiar with the company, you know that they make ribbon drivers.
Yeah.
Ribbon drivers, which we don't have time to get into the technical part, do we, with this video?
Not really.
So ribbon drivers, let's just say, are extremely responsive drivers. Extremely resolving drivers.
Yep.
This has 3 ribbons per side. If you've heard their their first headphone that they did, I think that was the first headphone, the SR1A.
Yes.
Wonderful headphone, kind of finicky because of its adjustability with respect to angles and everything. That was a wonderful sounding headphone.
Yeah.
But the Imanis is orders of magnitude better. I'll say it. I'm just going to say it straight up. This is one of the best headphones in the world right now.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So that's my opinion. In terms of resolution, we've not measured it. I have no idea how it measures. We haven't put it on the bench. We just haven't had time. It just arrived. I've heard it at a couple shows.
Yeah.
And it's impressed me every time. The sound signature, I'd say, is neutral. Something about those ribbon drivers, though.
Yeah.
Bass, to my ears, very extended. You know, can I tell you how many hertz it's extended to? No. But it's extremely extended bass to my ears. And it doesn't sound elevated or anything like that. So it's pretty linear bass. But somehow, something about maybe the driver type, very still visceral.
Right.
So there's a physicality to the bass, even if it's not, like, elevated up. From the mids, and from the bass, frankly, from the lowest all the way to the highest, all the way through the mids, of course, and everything. Super textured, very airy, and again, very physical. Things just jump out of these headphones. It's truly a stunning headphone. So, if you want to hear what I think is in competition with anything, essentially, to be one of the best headphones in the world, the RAL 1995 Imanis is an absolute can't miss. If you've heard the SR1A, and if you found that a little finicky, maybe you found it a little bright.
Right.
Not these. These are just fantastic. So don't miss the Imanis. Yeah. Oof.
Now, this is a headphone that's been out for, I believe, a few years now. I think it came out 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't believe it's been that long.
But it's the Odyssey LCD5. We've done a full video on it, so if you haven't checked it out already, definitely do.
Yeah, it's review, measurements, the whole bit.
Exactly, the full package. And I imagine that in CanJam SoCal, a number of headfires will have heard this in the past. If it's been a while, come reacquaint yourself with it because it is a phenomenal headphone. And if you've never heard it before, you absolutely have to. So the LCD5 is kind of a break from tradition in the Odyssey line. So the Odyssey flagships typically were known as They have a little more low-end presence. Actually, some of them a lot more low-end presence, a little richer sound, but still highly detailed, highly resolving. With the LCD5, there were a number of changes that they made. So they've got the parallel uniforce voice coil on here. And I believe the way that works is it creates a more even distribution of the sound across the driver to create a more flat linear response in the driver itself. It also has a lot of technology that we expect, like the phasor and fluxor. It actually has an updated phasor waveguide compared to the older headphones. They've also made some changes to the body. So this is a magnesium acetate carbon fiber combination, so it's lighter weight than before.
Love the way it looks too.
I love the way it looks. It's a beautiful finish. And sound-wise, this is very different from their classic LCD flagships. They actually released a headphone around the same time, the Carbon, which is an electrostatic headphone. And this has a very familial sound to the Carbon.
Yes.
It's highly resolving, highly detailed. The speed is kind of insane. I love how fast it responds. Wonderful sound signature, right up my alley. Even years on, this is a headphone that I think I should reach for that again.
Yeah, still their flagship planar magnetic and still absolutely deserving of its flagship status.
Yeah. So check out our video and definitely check it out at Audazy's exhibit.
Now this sinister looking headphone, this is a legend already.
Oh yeah.
This is the Abyss Headphones AB1266 Phi TC. The Phi TC is the latest version of it.
Right.
But the one thing how long has this thing been out?
I think longer than a decade.
So the first version of the AB1266 came out 10, 11 years ago or something?
Yeah, like 2013, somewhere in there.
Oh my goodness. So it has been that long.
It's been a while.
So the one thing that's been consistent, they've improved the sound. The Phi TC is certainly better. It's the best version of the AB1266 that they've released. But the thing that's been consistent from even the very first version to now, and that makes it what it is in terms of sonically, is the physicality, the tactile nature of it. If you get a proper fit. Oh, so ask them for help, by the way, at the Abyss exhibit to get a proper fit, because it doesn't fit like normal circumaural or around-the-ear headphones. You don't want to get a perfect seal like you do with most around-the-ears.
No.
They'll help you with that. Properly driven, properly fit, and they'll have it properly driven, of course, at their exhibit. Just that tactility, the physicality of the sound, that you're actually experiencing something physical in your presence. That is very unique to this headphone.
It is.
The way it does it. And it's still very resolving even today. But this build, I mean, what can you even say about this?
Yeah, it's a tank.
Yeah, it's a tank. It's CNC machined aluminum, and even the foam is a metal foam.
Yeah.
I love talking about that because it's foamed aluminum.
Yeah.
It looks like you could crunch, like push it in.
It looks like it'd be soft.
Yeah, but it is not. It is foamed aluminum. So still an incredible headphone after all these years. So at Abyss Headphones exhibit, do not miss this flagship. So this is the Hi-Fi Man Susvara unveiled.
Right.
It's brand spanking new. Just came out.
Yeah.
But if you've been paying attention to the flagship over-ear market, you've probably seen it on the forums because a lot of people that are interested in those kinds of headphones are talking about it. And justifiably so. So it joins the Hi-Fi Man lineup above the original Susvara. So the original Susvara remains in the line. But it's intended to level up the Susvara platform, which it does. Okay, how is it better? It's more resolving, but to my ears, still smoother in its presentation. I guess the better way I can put it is more refined in its presentation.
Right.
And I never really listened to the original Susvara and thought, yeah, that needs to be refined. I still don't. But this does refine it. And for some reason, I'm getting a little bit more richness out of it. It could be just some subtle changes. We haven't measured this yet. And maybe it's just subtle changes. I don't know how it measures relative to the original Susvara.
Right.
I don't care. But it sounds a little richer to my ears. So it's a little richer in tone. But yet, again, overall, still more resolving. Very importantly, it's more sensitive.
Yeah.
But I think even more important than that, it's less picky. So far in my experience, I've been able to plug it into just about anything that can drive it, and it sounds fantastic. This is not something that I was able to do with the original Susvara. It was more picky about what you plugged into it. That to me is a huge plus because I plugged it even to like the Shit Audio Midgard, which is like $219 or something like that. Something like that. And it sounds fantastic out of that.
Yeah.
So again, this headphone takes what was considered the original Susvara, the most resolving non-electrostatic headphone available for so many years. Now there's new competition.
Yep.
And it does level it up. Now, I should talk about the form factor. It's called the Susvara Unveiled because when you're not listening to them, you put on these magnetic veils. They're magnetically attached,
Yep.
really easy to put on and take off. And the reason you do that is because, and I'm sure this is part of why it sounds better, when you take them off, it becomes the first fully open back design planar magnetic headphone. That means it's open back.
Right.
There's nothing back there. You're looking right into the motor.
Yes.
I can see the diaphragm. And they did that to minimize any chance at all of reflections. And whatever they did, it works.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible headphone. Remarkable thing that it was tasked with to level up the Susvara.
Mm-hmm.
Mission accomplished. It is more expensive, though.
It is.
So make sure to check out Hi-Fi Man's exhibit because the Susvara Unveiled is going to be one of the biggest stars of the show. I wouldn't be surprised if people have to wait in line to hear it. But don't miss it.
Now, these are a little bit different than the others because we're holding a pair of headphones.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're holding a pair of headphones is that these two share so much in common.
They're
co-flagships. Yeah, exactly.
We said it together. Yeah. Jinx.
Yeah. So they sit side by side in the line. And these are the Dan Clark Audio Stealth and Expanse. Now, you're holding the Stealth, which is the closed back version, and I'm holding the Expanse, which is the open back.
There's a reason
So,
for that.
exactly.
Yeah.
You can probably figure out these are the ones that we prefer each.
Yeah.
But I want to mention in common, so they share the fourth generation V planar driver designed in-house by Dan Clark Audio and his team and their team. It both have the acoustic metamaterial tuning system, or AMTS, which is a feature that Dan Clark Audio created to help sculpt and shape the sound signature to get exactly what they want. And they changed that AMTS based on the headphone, but both models have that in there.
Right.
And then they also have a folding gimbal design so they can pop very, very small for better portability.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm trying to look at and see if there's anything else up there that does that, and I don't see it.
I can't think of anything that folds down like that. So sonically, both of these deserve that pinnacle flagship status because both of them have flagship level sound.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about Dan Clark Audio is the way they develop their headphones. Their closed headphones sound kind of open, and their open headphones are kind of isolating a little bit. So it does a good job of, even though it's open, kind of still blocking out some of the outside world.
Yeah, so the Expanse, you're right. The Expanse is not the most open to the world.
No.
Open back headphone.
Mm-hmm.
It's still more open than this.
Yes.
Open sounding even than this.
Yeah.
But as far as closed back headphones go, this is definitely one of the most open back sounding closed back headphones I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you prefer the Expanse?
I do. It's open.
Yeah, it's open. But, the funny thing is, in with some headphones, we always say that if it's open back, that's just an inherent advantage. But in this case, for me,
Mm-hmm.
in absolute terms, just in terms of just the sound, regardless of open or closed back, this is my favorite of the Dan Clark Audio headphones. So the Stealth, the
Yeah.
closed back one. So this one I prefer to the Expanse. You prefer the Expanse.
I do.
And that's one of the things I think that people going to the Dan Clark Audio exhibit have to do.
Yeah.
Listen to them both. Now, if you know you need a closed back headphone,
Mm-hmm.
right, the Stealth.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? If you, like you said, it does isolate a little bit more as open backs go.
Yeah.
And maybe then leaks a little less.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so test that as well to the best of your ability anyway to show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, incredible headphones.
And we did a video on both of them dedicatedly.
Yeah.
So before you go to the exhibit, definitely check out those videos. It's full breakdown. We got
for
measurements.
each of them.
For each of them, yes.
Yeah, we did a full review and measurements for both headphones.
Yes, exactly.
2 separate videos.
Yeah.
And the Stealth to me is actually, it's one of my reference closed back headphones.
Mm-hmm. Still.
Yeah, still. So this is the Meza Audio Elite.
Mm-hmm.
It's been out for about 3 years now.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Something I love, by the way, and I'm going to say this very quickly about all of the companies that we have on the table here, what I'm holding in my hand, their flagships tend to have years of life.
Yeah.
So if you get in on a model midlife or earlier, you're going to have a flagship for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the customers love that, that their model is not being replaced every year by a mark, whatever. So they have legs. And this has been out for about 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still an incredible headphone. And this was a refinement of the original Empyrean concept.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Empyrean 2 later in the video. And it's the last of its sound
Mm-hmm.
because they've replaced the original Empyrean.
Exactly.
And this was building on that original Empyrean sound, but with refinement and definitely more resolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, and this is true of the Empyrean 2 and this, they're the best built headphones in the world. We've said
They
this
are.
before. I don't say that lightly given what's on this table. These are beautifully built headphones, but these are a cut above everything. I mean, we have an HE1 here, and I would say this is probably even more the headphone part built better.
Yeah.
The tolerances are tighter. The fit and finish is incredible. As we've said many times before, there's no bad angle on them.
Right.
And you can even take a macro lens, zoom way in, super tight, and you're still going to see something really beautiful to look at.
Yep.
And you can't say that about many headphones at all. So the Meze Audio Elite, an important flagship for me personally because it carries on that tradition of the original Meze flagship sound.
Right.
It's the last one left, but it's the highest refinement of that principle, of that sound, and I love it for that reason. Don't miss the Meze Audio Elite. This is the FoCal Utopia 2022. I want to say at the outset that we did a full video review of the FoCal Utopia 2022 when it came out. Measurements, comparisons, the whole bit. So make sure to check that out. But I thought I'd mention it here.
Yeah.
Because it's such a departure from the other flagships. All of the other flagships on the table, with the exception of Raw, which is a ribbon, are planar magnetic headphones. This is the least like all of them in that it's a dynamic headphone.
Right.
And it's an incredible dynamic headphone. The original Utopia that came out in like 2016 revolutionized dynamic headphones. We'd never seen technical performance from a dynamic headphone like that.
Right.
In fact, in 2019, Gross came to us to do a measurement project to show off their soon-to-be released, now since been released, extended frequency response coupler. They asked us to measure a bunch of headphones to see which ones would have the most extension.
Right.
The original Utopia did, of the ones we measured.
Yeah.
The flattest, if you want to call it that, kind of flattest to 80K. They asked us to measure to 50K. We went to 80K just for fun. We haven't done that with this yet.
Not yet. No.
We'll have to do that with the 2022 version. But anyway, the 2022 version takes this technically amazing dynamic headphone with the solid beryllium dome, the formorless voice coil, and refined it. Changed the tonal balance of it to refine that. So they went to a different voice coil. We go over that in the video, the review, so do check it out. They changed the appearance. I actually love the forged carbon fiber that they now use and some of the other details they did. Again, we go over that in the video as well. But they refined the tonal balance to make it sound smoother.
Right.
But with the other changes they made, it's still more resolving. And the way they shifted the tonal balance smooths the treble out, refines that.
Right.
Gives us more richness. Whereas I had to EQ the original Utopia. I never EQ the Utopia 2022. And given that it's a dynamic headphone, it's probably easier to pair up than most of these, if not all of those up on the table.
That's probably true.
And so I can drive it with a much wider range of electronics than maybe some of the other flagships, including, high-end portable DAPs.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So this is such an important headphone to me. It's a dynamic headphone amongst beasts. I mean, this thing is, and it holds its own. And that to me is incredible. So FoCal's Utopia 2022 is always worth looking at and listening to at the show. So now we go from cost no object flagship non-electrostatic headphones to a cost no object flagship electrostatic headphone that I'm very excited to say is launching at CanJam SoCal. It's the Audeze Carbon 2, and I'm excited about it because I think it's maybe, and I'm biased because I love electrostatic headphones, probably the most exciting product launch for me at CanJam SoCal this year. So I'm so excited they're bringing this. This is a pre-production unit, but it's voice to production. So it'll look mostly like this actually when you see it. The Audeze Carbon 2, to my ears, is more than just a simple evolution of the original Carbon.
Right.
Because they incorporate something new in it, a technology they developed called SLAM, which stands for Symmetric Linear Acoustic Modulator, which they say is tuned to enhance selected low frequencies while maintaining optimal air pressure distribution. Now, I do understand more details of the operating principles and engineering behind SLAM, but I'm not really allowed to talk about that yet. I'm sure they'll say more down the road.
Right.
I'm going to read then what they told me that I know I can say. So SLAM gives Carbon 2 the most physical, lifelike bass response of any electrostatic headphone, a completely reasonable claim based on what I heard. SLAM optimizes air pressure distribution across the driver, allowing Carbon 2 to resolve more fine detail than any headphone in Audeze's history for incredibly immersive stereo imaging and soundstage presentation. Also very reasonable claims based on what I heard. Now, I've only heard it with a modest amp.
Right.
It's a good amp.
Yeah.
And it's the Stax SRM007T2. Electrostatic headphone enthusiasts are probably familiar with that amp. It's been around a long time. Now, my reference amp is behind me. And I haven't heard the Carbon 2 with that one because it's part of the set right now and it's really heavy and we haven't moved it. So I haven't even heard this with my reference amp yet. But even with the modest Stax amp, what I'm hearing from this is better than the original Carbon from any amp I've heard it on. And that's saying something. So the bass that they're talking about, Again, reasonable description. Now, I want to say something. So, electrostatic headphone enthusiasts are probably familiar with the Omega 2, the Stax Omega 2, the SRM 007. We have Mark 1 and 2. And that one has really a nice rich presentation due to what I would call kind of by today's standards, an unconventional tuning.
Yeah.
Right? The way the tonal balance is shifted, it kind of gives it that richness. Mm-hmm. It's a charming, beautiful signature to this day, but I'd say by today's standards, again, it's a bit unconventional. Right. Now, to have an electrostatic headphone with a more conventional tuning, have the kind of bass presence that I like, is not common in an open back electrostat.
Right.
The Stax, I'm sorry, the Sennheiser HE1 has it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's obviously, crazy expensive.
It is.
And practically unobtainium. A lot more expensive than this one. And this one gives that kind of presence to me in that kind of a more modern signature, and I mean that in all the best ways.
Yeah.
Now, as for what they said with SLAM optimizes air pressure distribution, okay, the resolving more fine detail than any headphone in their history, the soundstage, I'm hearing that too, even out of that Stax amp. Again, a modest Stax amp. And I'm hearing more detail than I've ever heard from a Carbon, but yet it's more refined sounding. So I know people hate that, the more organic, more, it's smoother, but it is definitely more resolving. And this is out of my modest Stax amp. Again, I can't wait to hear it from this or whatever they're going to be driving it with at the Odyssey exhibit. I'm not sure what they're going to be driving it with. But obviously, I'm sure you can tell I'm very excited about the Carbon 2. So the one I'm holding is a pre-production unit, voiced to production voicing. But it is going to look mostly like what you're seeing in my hands here. And yeah, this one is so exciting. So if you want to hear the best headphone I think Odyssey's ever made, that's to me unquestionably so. And just one of my favorite headphones now, period. The Odyssey Carbon 2, launching at CanJam SoCal.
Now, I want to make sure we don't overlook two of my favorite headphones that will be at Odyssey's exhibit. So this is the Manny Marroquin line. I'm holding the MM100. On the table here is the MM500. This is the entry level. This is the flagship. So these are two headphones that you're going to see get a lot of use here around the office because they work both for professional use. We can use them for mixing and mastering here in the studio. And they're also fantastic for music listening if you like more of a reference sound, something that you're going to find in a studio. I have to say, these are both beautiful headphones. So I'll just talk real quick about some of the differences. So this is $400. This is $16.99. So a bit of a price delta.
Yes.
This one is going to have a 90 millimeter planar magnetic driver, 80 ohm impedance. It is a single entry cable, but it has a double side entry. So you can choose left or right cup entry. So if you have components on one side or the other of the desk, makes it easy to just set it up so it's better for your system. It has a magnesium and steel chassis, and it has a Maxwell-like headband, which will look familiar from the gaming headset.
Yes.
Very, very durable system. And it comes with a cloth carrying pouch. So you have a little bit of protection between it if you're traveling from location to location, and between it and your bag. You may still want to kind of protect it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the MM500 is basically this tuned up to 11.
Yeah.
So it is a fantastic flagship class headphone. Again, studio reference sound, so great for studio work, great for music listening. It also has the 90 millimeter planar magnetic driver, also has an 80 ohm impedance. That one has a dual entry cable, but it's a very rugged, durable, the mini 3-pin XLR connector, so very, very strong connection. It does have a machined aluminum chassis, and to me personally, between these two, that one feels more sturdy in my hand. It's fantastic. I love the build quality on it. And it has the more premium spring steel headband. And then that one also comes with a hard shell carrying case. So if you are transporting anything back and forth, that one's going to protect it a lot better. So if you're stopping by Odyssey's exhibit, once you're done with the Carbon 2, or if the Carbon 2 queue is too long, definitely check out the MM100 and the MM500. If you can afford the MM500, I would say start there. But if you can't, definitely give this one a try.
This is the brand new Abyss Headphones Diana DZ. Mm-hmm. Brand new because it just came out, I think, in July at CanJam London.
Right.
And I love it. I think it's the best of the Abyss headphones to date, including the AB1266. Now, earlier we did a section on flagship class, cost no object, non-electrostatic headphones. And we didn't mention this one in that we covered the AB1266 Phi TC, which is their overall flagship.
Mm-hmm.
This should have been at that table, but we had limited space and time. So we decided to cover it on its own, which it deserves.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say it. I think it's the best Abyss headphone, sonically, for my tastes, made to date.
Okay.
The thing that I thought I valued the most from the Abyss headphones, and I guess it still is to some degree, is the physicality, that sort of tactileness that comes with every note as it presents it. Love that about it.
Yeah.
There's something very alive about it. And all the resolution. Never thought I necessarily wanted a more conventional tonal balance, but I guess I did because this I haven't measured it, so I don't know how it measures, but it sounds to me more conventional than the other Dianas before it. Combined with those other qualities, I think it makes my favorite headphone from Abyss.
Yeah.
And I don't care what your price point is. I don't care if you're one of those very fortunate people with no budget, no limit. Consider the Diana DZ. Listen to the Diana DZ. It's that good. And it has a new driver, by the way, that was designed specifically for the Diana DZ. Mm-hmm. It's still a 63 millimeter planar magnetic driver,
right?
But designed for the DZ. And it's also more comfortable.
It is.
They have a new comfort strap for it, and these new pads. These stock pads are hybrid pads that have a ultra suede on the face side.
Mm-hmm. It's also lighter.
Yeah, the headphone's also lighter.
Yeah.
It's significantly lighter. We actually weighed them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's significantly lighter than any of the DZs before it. So combine that comfort with the best overall sound that I've heard from an Abyss headphone so far. Yeah, this is an incredible headphone. So you can't miss it. The finishes are also really special.
They are.
We have the violet abalone. It's my favorite of their finishes available.
Too, yeah.
So make sure to check that out too. So again, Abyss headphones, Diana DZ, can't miss. Flagship class headphone, CanJam SoCal. So while the Abyss Diana DZ might be my favorite overall, I have to mention the MR.
Right.
So the MR was, I think, the second newest model, Diana MR.
Yep.
Released, I think, late last year.
I think so.
So it's still quite new. That model represents the classic Diana sounds, if this represents the newer version of that. And some people might actually prefer that.
Yeah.
So listen to both and see what you prefer. I'm going to be curious to know what you think in terms of the tonal balance. The MR is also easier to drive, a little more sensitivity, and lower impedance. That's going to matter for some, depending on what you're going to drive it with.
And more affordable.
Yes. So that's important, too. So don't miss the Diana MR. Oh, it also has the newer style headband, so it's also quite comfortable.
Yes.
I also want to mention the Abyss headphones headphone stand, which is incredible. It's made of machined wood.
Right.
I don't know. What's the metal part? Is that aluminum?
I'm not certain.
Like a machined aluminum? I'm not sure what that is. But it is so heavy that you will not be traveling with this. This will not be your hotel room headphone stand. It's just too heavy. And that's what's partially great about it, other than the design with the machined wood. It's almost untip-overable. It's that stable. When you hang your headphone on it, it feels like it's bolted to the table.
Yeah.
And when you're using headphones this expensive, it's nice to have that level of stability. So they're rather pricey. So it's not like we're going to buy a dozen of these things, although I'd love to have a dozen of these things. But it's nice to have that stability for your main rig at home or at work. So don't miss the headphone stand at Abyss Headphones either. So back when we did, I think it was 2016, we did the Utopia Earlier video.
Right.
FoCal.
Yes.
And were you here when we did those?
That was before I started.
That was before you started. So just before you started, probably.
Yeah. I started that year.
So Brian has been a head fire for many, many years, long before he even started working here. But in 2016, he joined us.
Yep.
Yay. But anyway, so we did the Earlier Utopia video for FoCal, Earlier, and Utopia. And I feel those headphones, and I think a lot of people agree, to me, they unquestionably revolutionized the dynamic headphone market. And since then, they've released a lot of models that have become very popular. But one thing is true of all of them. They're either somewhat expensive, more than somewhat expensive,
they can be quite
or
expensive.
very expensive.
Yes.
These released just this year.
Yeah.
A
few months ago.
We did a few months ago. And we did a video review of these,
we did,
including measurements. So make sure to check that out. These are affordable. And they're made in France.
Yes.
And they sound, to me, of that family, of the flagship class family.
Absolutely do.
So very excited about that. I have the Osiris, which I'm more excited about. You have the Audionis, which you're more excited about. They are passive headphones. This is closed back. The Audionis is open back. We both agree that the Audionis, the open back Audionis, in absolute terms, is the better sounding of the two.
Right.
Because it's open back, it has these advantages. You're more excited about that as a result. I'm more excited about the Osiris because it's closed back and gives you more use cases, or me anyway. And so that's important to me. So these are can't miss headphones. They're already huge hits. I believe they're selling extremely well.
Yeah.
The reviews have been extremely good, and deservedly so. The reputations are already gaining quickly. But I think because they're still relatively new, a lot of people at CanJam SoCal will be hearing them for the first time. I would say, given the price and the performance, I would say these are kind of like one of the first stop class products.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
At a CanJam. Like if depending on what you're shopping for and what your budget is, I would say the FoCal, Osiris, and Audionis are kind of first stop at CanJam type headphones. So yeah, don't miss these for sure. Now, if one was afflicted with color blindness, as I am, he might think we're holding the same headphones we were holding just a second ago.
Right.
Because they do look a lot like those, but we're not. This is one model, two different colors. I'm holding the Dune colorway. You're holding the, I guess that's just the black colorway.
The black, yeah.
And these are the FoCal Batiste.
Mm-hmm.
And the Batiste is a very significant headphone for me because it's a wireless Bluetooth ANC headphone, closed back, so it's not passive. And the reason it's significant for me is because prior to the Batiste, I just didn't listen to music dedicatedly through any Bluetooth ANC headphones.
Right. Because most of them are focused on the ANC aspect rather than the music side.
Right. So they're good enough I'd listen to podcasts, things like
Yeah.
that, or talk radio, but I wouldn't listen to music dedicatedly through them if,
Right.
you know. And then these came along, or this came along. It's, again, one model, the Batiste, and then I did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tunable.
Yeah.
So there are EQ settings. And in fact, there are some presets you can use. There's one that's Harman-like.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite setting is the default tuning.
Yeah.
But experiment with both. In the app, it's really easy. And again, that's just such a significant thing for me to have this musical audiophile quality Bluetooth headphone.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It really is.
With ANC.
And the ANC is good.
Yeah.
It's not going to match anything like the flagship level Sony or Bose.
Right.
But that's their focus. Its focus is music for
Right.
the Batiste, and it shows. And the ANC is definitely wonderful when you need it because it's going to come into a pinch usually.
Yeah, and it works really well. Again, not at the level of the Bose Ultra, the
Right.
Sony XM5, but it works well.
Yeah, you can definitely use it on a plane.
And in an office setting, if you just
Yeah.
want to blunt the noise that comes with an office.
Mhm.
So it works well for that. But for me, again, the single most important thing, and the outgoing voice is pretty good too.
That's true, yeah.
But for me, the single most important thing with these is just they're musical and wireless.
Yeah.
And that I dig so much. So if you're looking for a Bluetooth ANC headphone that is audiophile quality, musical, don't miss the FoCal Batiste. I love the Dune colorway. You prefer the black one, which is why we're holding the two different colors. So don't miss these at FoCal's exhibit.
Now, at every CanJam, there's a company that always has a queue, and that's ZMF Headphones. Now, they're joining us at CanJam SoCal, and like they've done at a number of CanJams this year, they've grown their space. So it's bigger than it has been for past events. But again, earlier this year at all those CanJam shows, ZMF Headphones has filled that space. So they've really gone and just brought everything they have all the way to the show. You can try every single model they have, so many different color options. The number of pairings that they have in the room are absolutely insane. They have 10 or 12 stations of systems, it feels like. You could just sit down and try every single combination of, different kind of amp that's out there.
Yeah, I love that about their exhibit. By the way, I still think you're back at CanJam London. You said Q.
I did.
We're back in America, boy. We say lines here.
We say lines.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But anyways, you're right. I love what they do at their exhibits.
Mhm.
Their rigs are very carefully considered, so their headphones are always beautifully driven.
They really are.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Anyways, you know more about the new stuff that they're going to have, so I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah. So one of the new things they're showing off is the Bokeh Open. So a lot of you may have heard the Bokeh before. It's a closed headphone. I think it launched right around December, January, somewhere in that range. But they're showing off the open version. It's the production version. We're going to hear it at CanJam SoCal. Now, throughout this year, they've been showing pre-production versions of the Bokeh Open at different CanJams, with London being the one that was closest to production. But at CanJam SoCal, we'll hear the final version. I'll also say the ones in London, there were some stunning designs with the open grill system that he has going on. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the final production versions as well, because even, back in July, they were still beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard the Bokeh Open here. We haven't had it here, have we?
We've not had it here. I got to hear an earlier prototype at one of the CanJams, but I'm really looking forward to trying the final version.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try that at SoCal. Now, while I'm excited they'll have the new Bokeh Open,
Mhm.
we still have to talk about these two.
Right.
So these two headphones are their co-flagships. And even though they've been out for a while, they haven't been out for that long.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, I feel they've already cemented themselves in our community as legends.
Yeah.
These are legendary models. So as long as these are current models and as long as ZMF comes to CanJam, we're going to talk about them every time.
Yep.
So these are the co-flagships. I'm holding the dynamic co-flagship, which is the ZMF Atrium.
Mm-hmm.
You're holding the Caldera, which is their planar magnetic flagship.
Right.
Now, between the two, I prefer the Atrium. I've
Yes.
said it many times before. The Atrium is one of my favorite headphones ever made at any price. And it's not because it's like the most resolving headphone in the world, although it's extremely resolving.
Right.
That's not its strongest suit. It's what makes it what it is everything. And it's so musical. And the best way I can say it is it's like how tube amps make me happy. When I listen to them, the musicality from the tube amps,
Mm-hmm.
this has it for
Yeah.
me. And so it's like a tube amp that I can wear on my head. And I enjoy the Atrium immensely. And it's probably one of the headphones I use the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the Caldera that you're
Right.
holding, the planar magnetic one. Between the two, that's probably your tonal preference. But, and it's growing on me the more I use it still. And I don't think it's ever going to catch the Atrium for me, though. But
Right.
in the community, it seems it's pretty darn evenly split.
It does feel that way, yeah.
So if you're one of the people who hasn't yet heard the co-flagships, the ZMF Atrium and the Caldera, make sure you do. Because if you haven't heard them, that's the top of the list kind of thing that you should do for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're magic, in my opinion, and especially the Atrium. Okay, I'm both excited and sad
Mm-hmm.
to do this segment. I'm excited because Fostex has 3 new headphones that they're going to have at CanJam SoCal, so we
Yes.
had to tell you about them. I'm sad because they just arrived today, which is our last day of shooting.
Mm-hmm.
You just finished photographing them like an hour ago.
Yeah.
And if you saw my watch, it's quite late at night here.
Yeah.
So we haven't had a chance to listen to them. But we wanted to make sure you know they're there. So
Mm-hmm.
let's start. 3 new models from Fostex, always news. Let's start with the T50 RP Mark IV.
Yeah, you've said before that the T50 line is legendary,
It
and
is.
the T50 RP Mark IV is the newest generation of it. So there are a number of changes inside, but let's start with the similarities. It's still a semi-open planar magnetic headphone. It is 28 ohm impedance, and weight comes in around 330 grams. But inside, they have a new coil pattern on their driver. They say a new printed coil pattern shape has been employed to expand and equalize the vibration area of the flat diaphragm. And they've also added more magnets. They go on to say, furthermore, the components of the magnetic circuit have been redesigned to optimize their magnetic flux distribution. Now, they have a really cool cross-section of that T50RP Mark IV driver compared to the Mark III before it. And you can see just from the graphic how much has changed inside.
Yeah,
It's substantial.
substantial changes.
Yes, it absolutely is. And they also have new ear pads on this. So it's a thicker ear pad. It's an asymmetrical ear pad. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe they've actually tweaked the material inside as well.
And I think most headfires are going to be even more excited by the fact that Fostex is launching 2 new flagship headphones.
Right.
2 co-flagships, and they're going to have them at CanJam SoCal. The gorgeous blue headphones in front of us here. The TH1100RP, which is open back.
Yep.
The TH1000RP, which is closed back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of headfires know the TH900.
Yeah.
A classic model. That's a dynamic headphone.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a beautiful lacquer on it. It was a
did.
high art, traditional Japanese lacquer.
Yeah, they call it urushi.
Urushi lacquer.
Yeah.
Glossy,
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
These also use a traditional Japanese process.
Yeah.
Not urushi.
Yeah.
Very different look.
Mm-hmm.
So the cups are made of solid hard maple,
Yes,
over which they use a dyed indigo blue, and it is so beautiful.
it is.
So you have much better Japanese pronunciation than me. I'll let you say what it's called.
So they call it awa aizome, and it's actually a well-known process. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's a local specialty of Tokushima.
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
Now, it's a dye that's typically used in high-end luxury goods.
Yeah, clothing, bags, things like that.
I was actually shopping for a shirt recently. Well, I was looking at it anyway.
Yeah.
It used
Aizome, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it used that, and it was like $400.
I'm not surprised. It's a complicated process.
I didn't buy the shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Fostex has a really cool video on their website showing the whole process from start to finish, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, it's a very cool video, so make sure to check that out.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about the driver,
Mhm.
because these are planar magnetic. The TH900 was dynamic. These
Yeah.
are planar magnetic.
Mhm.
Now, Fostex is known for its planar magnetic drivers in their RP lines.
Right.
These are, as far as I know, these are the biggest that they've ever made.
I think so. And they also have a cross section showing how it compares to the T50RP Mark IV to really just kind of wrap your head around how big that change is.
Yeah, it's quite a bit larger than any planar magnetic driver that I've seen by them.
Yeah.
Now, so they're larger. They increase the number of magnets that sandwich the diaphragm.
Mhm.
They have a newly designed pattern and shape for the printed coil. And Fostex says the magnetic circuit components have been redesigned to optimize the magnetic flux distribution. All of these work together to suppress unwanted resonance in the diaphragm.
Mhm.
So again, we haven't had time to listen to them, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Because we got them so late in shooting, but we're so excited that they're going to be there with these 3 new headphones.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure to stop by American Music and Sounds exhibit at CanJam SoCal. Do not miss these 3 new Fostex headphones. So this rather unassuming looking headphone is, in my opinion, and you know this already, but it's
Right.
I think it's one of the most important headphone releases of the last several years.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Sennheiser HD600 family is one of the most legendary family of headphones in our community. And this is the first closed back headphone that they saw fit to put the 600 name on.
Right.
Well, it's the 620S. And so is it a perfect reproduction of 600, 650, or 660S2.
I mean, of course not.
Of course not. But it is an open-sounding closed-back headphone, which is what they were after.
Yes.
And in terms of tonal balance, the way they tuned it, I would say that it is 600-ish for sure.
Yeah.
It's deserving of the name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you can't do is look at the measurements and say, wait, the measurements don't look, just listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with some reviewers who happen to measure. We also measure. The first time several of us heard it,
right,
and it went over very well. And that's what I will say. Look at the measurements, fine, but ignore them. Just listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I think you will agree. This is a worthy 600 closed-back headphone, 600 family closed-back headphone, the HD620S. Now, before I go on to this open-back one, which I did mention already, I want to say one last thing about the HD620S is that the frequency response, if you want to look at that, looks different because they tuned it so carefully to achieve certain goals.
Right, yes.
That was very purposeful.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was very deliberate. I just wanted to say that.
And not the first time they've done that.
Not the first time they've done that. Anyways, well, let's move on to this. This is the HD660S2.
Mm-hmm.
This has been out for a while.
Yeah.
But this is another very important release. That's why I was a little bit measured, no pun intended, in what I said about the HD620S and being one of the most important releases, because I also feel this is, again, it's another 600 family headphone. We don't get them very often.
Right.
And this is the one that I felt like I was waiting for as far as the open backs go.
Yeah.
Love the 600, love the 650. The 660S2, though, gave me what I wanted from those two legendary headphones,
mm-hmm.
and still maintains, again, the 600 family sound. So if you want to hear my favorite of the HD600 family headphones, I'm holding it. This is the HD660S2. This one is open.
Mm-hmm.
And why do I love it? It has bass. So it has more bass extension, like real bass extension, which is what I think a lot of us in the 600 loving family wanted. And now we got it.
Yep.
So this is another extremely important headphone. So don't miss the 660S2 for sure. Meza Audio will be coming from Baia Mare, Romania to join us at CanJam SoCal. I love that they come to our shows.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be coming with this. This is a new headphone called the Meza Audio 105 Air.
Yeah, and it's so new it's not even on their website yet.
Yeah, we're trying to find information on their website, and we couldn't find it just to give you specs and things like that. So we're going to have to focus on how it sounds.
Exactly.
Which is the most important thing, I think. And that we know one thing about it, that it'll come in lower in price than the 109.
Correct.
So it joins the 109 in the lineup, lower in price. This is something that Meza Audio has been doing that I think is very exciting for the last couple of years. They've been kind of shaking it up.
Yeah.
Kind of bold, in my opinion. They've been coming out with, say, for example, products that are less expensive that challenge even their more expensive Meza Audio peers, like the Alba on the IEM side, which we'll talk about in the IEM segment. And they're doing it again with the 105, because I think the 105, even though it's less expensive than the 109, is going to be preferred by many.
Right.
And I think, of course, many will prefer the 109. You prefer the 109.
I do.
I would describe, let's go to the 109 for a second. I would describe its tonal balance in its class of headphone as mostly balanced with a little bit of treble energy that's on the brighter side for me. But for you, you'd probably consider it mostly balanced, period.
Yeah, it's right in my wheelhouse.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the 105 doesn't have that occasional brightness with me. It essentially is never bright for me. And as a result of that, I think they sculpted the treble to smooth it out, which also gave it more richness.
Yeah.
To my ears, probably to yours as well. And I prefer that. So what's cool is I think people at CanJam SoCal will be able to go to Meza Audio's exhibit, listen to both.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a clear preference one way or the other.
I think so.
And if you like the 105, then you can save a little money versus the 109. And if you prefer the 109, you'll have to spring for the 109. But in either case, these are two Meza Audio headphones that, as Meza Audio goes, are on the more affordable side.
Right.
So the 105 Air, I think, is an exciting addition to the line. Another new Meza Audio headphone that's shaking up the lineup is the Meza Audio Lyric 2, which I think is actually called the Lyric 2nd Generation.
Right.
But we always called it Lyric 2. I'm going to call it Lyric 2. So the Lyric 2 replaces the original Lyric, which is their mid-priced, closed-back headphone.
Right.
That's a big move.
Yeah.
Because it replaces it, and it was popular.
It was.
And in doing so, they completely change up the tonal balance. It's now smoother and warmer, and they achieve that in part using something called QWRM.
Yeah, they call that the quarter wavelength resonator mask. It's a part of the frame that was specifically developed to tame frequency peaks over 7 kilohertz, and that let them get the sound signature they were going for in this model.
And that sound signature, again, is clearly warmer and smoother than the original Lyric.
Yes.
Still is resolving, in my opinion, but a clear shift in tonal balance.
Right.
Now, you have a clear preference for the original Lyric.
I do.
I'm torn between the two. And if you've heard the original Lyric at CanJam, and it wasn't for you, the Lyric 2 very well might be, because it's a completely different headphone, both in terms of build and sound. Oh, one last thing I want to mention that's also completely different about it. The Lyric 2 adds the magnetic mounting system for the pads.
It does.
From the flagship, Empyrean and Elite, which uses the motor magnets, I believe, as the actual pad mounting magnets, which makes for easy removal and replacement of the pads. So that's a great addition as well. So again, at CanJam SoCal, don't miss the Lyric 2.
Now, this headphone is Meza Audio's Empyrean 2, and it's another headphone that's shaking up their lineup, not in terms of price point, but in terms of sonics. So with the Empyrean, we were talking about that earlier in relation to the Elite. It had a very popular sound signature. The Empyrean 2 is going in an entirely different direction, and I think it's still going to be a popular headphone, but with a different crowd. So the Empyrean 2 speaks more to someone like me who wants reference level sound, who wants detail and resolution without necessarily having an high emphasis on the low end.
Something perceived flat.
Perceived flat, yes, exactly. It's a wonderful sound through and through. I absolutely adore this headphone, and that's a pretty big shape up considering how popular the Empyrean is today still, even though it's no longer available.
Right. Yeah, for me, I'm a bit torn because I really love the way it sounds.
Yeah.
But I also love the way the first-gen Empyrean sounds. I have to say I probably prefer the first-gen Empyrean. Now, luckily, I don't have to make the choice because we have both here. But that is more resolving.
Yes.
And the one thing I'll say about that is earlier when we were talking about the Elite in that segment where we were talking about non-electrostatic flagships, we discussed including that.
Yeah.
But we were running out of space on the table. We decided let's just focus on the Elite. But that is such an exceptionally good headphone.
It is.
Also as well built for all the things I said about the Elite. It's as well built as the Elite in terms of its construction quality, fit and finish. One of the best built, if not the best built headphones in the world.
Right.
And so I am very excited about that, but it is a shakeup.
Yeah.
Right. This is the thing that they're doing that I find so surprising. Right. Because when they came out with that, I thought they would do something like that was an evolution of the existing Empyrean sound.
Right.
But what they're going to do now, like you said, I think they're going to appeal to a different crowd.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be people who maybe weren't going to consider the Empyrean or the Elite because, like you, because you're looking for something more perceived flat most of the time.
Yeah.
And those didn't. They were more rich and, they were more unique and the things I loved about them.
Right.
But I get why they might maybe want to appeal to a different crowd. Introduce more people to Meza Audio, people who want that build quality, the sound quality, but a different tonal balance.
Right.
And so, I think because I don't think this was at CanJam SoCal last year, was it?
I don't believe it was. No.
I think it came out at CanJam Dallas.
I think so.
So anyways, this will be the first time it's at CanJam SoCal. I would say this is an absolute can't miss headphone. If you've listened to Meza Audio's flagships before and you're like, I like them, but I want something more neutral sounding. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Empyrean 2.
And I also want to mention very quickly a couple of new products that are coming out that are more accessories. So they have a new headphone stand called the Manta headphone stand. The Manta is here on the table. It has a 7x7 base and it's 12.5 inches tall roughly and comes in right about 3.5 pounds. So it's substantial both in size and mass, but that's good because for a headphone, it gives you a stable base with a lot of downforce to keep it from moving around.
It's very stable and it's probably one of my 2 favorite headphone stand designs.
It is fantastic.
And they focused a lot. I talked to them about the design of the arc. They spent a lot of time getting the shape of that arc that supports the headphone as compatible with most headphones as possible.
Yeah. It also has a fin on the back of the stand that can pop out. So you can put it away if you need to, but it will support your headphone cables. So they're up off the table and out of the way.
Very thoughtful detail.
They also have a new boom microphone cable coming, and that is going to be compatible with their headphones that have the 3.5 mono connector on the headphone side. So that's the 99 Classics, 99 Neo, 109 Pro, 105 Air, Lyric 1 and 2, if you happen to have the Lyric 1 still. And also any headphones that have that 3.5 mono termination. I can think of a couple offhand.
Sure.
So if you think about the headphones that are in their lineup and the sonic signatures that a lot of those have, this cable is primarily targeting gamers and office communications for like Zoom calls and things like that. And I can think as far as gaming goes, there's a number of headphones that I'd like to try with that cable.
Yeah, in their lineup, I would say for both communications and gaming, for me personally, I'd probably choose the 109.
That's the first one I thought of. So definitely check out both at their exhibit. So this is an exciting new headphone for me. It's called the Dunu Arashi, and let me tell you why it's so exciting. The Dunu Arashi is Dunu's first full-size, open-back, planar magnetic headphone, and holy cow, did they knock it out of the park straight out of the gate.
I
agree.
They
did such a fantastic job.
I agree. We've been waiting for this one for a while.
Yeah, we have.
So they've been developing this for years. They've shown it at several CanJams, and I am so excited about this because it's finally out.
Yeah.
And so we have the final production voiced version.
Yes.
That's a pre-production unit, so it might have tiny, tiny changes to aesthetics.
Right.
But anyways, I hope they don't change much of the way it looks.
No, it's beautiful.
But they've hit it out of the park, like you said.
Yeah.
So this headphone, first of all, let's start with the looks. It's gorgeous to look at. So if you're familiar with the original Stax Omega from a zillion years ago, I think it's one of the most beautiful headphones to look at.
Right.
And then now the Stax X9000, their new flagship, that's an homage to the original Omega.
Yeah.
It reminds me of those headphones. That's in every way a compliment. Now, I want to be clear because I keep talking about Stax here. This is a planar magnetic headphone, not electrostatic. It's a planar magnetic headphone. Let's talk about the guts of it real quick. It's a planar magnetic driver, multi-layer composite film diaphragm, damping, rigidity, and elasticity layers, they mentioned. Fine voice coil, very thin, high-quality voice coil. The fine voice coil significantly enhances micro-detail performance and overall dynamics. I think it's very fair to say. Dual-sided magnetic circuit, and they say it's quite sensitive. They point that out.
Yeah.
That you can use it even with portable players. Having used it with a few portable players, all of which drove it beautifully, I can say that's accurate.
Yeah.
We've also used several different desktop amps.
We have.
With whatever we've plugged into it, it sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sound signature. I would call it neutral and solidly neutral.
Yes.
So the bass is extended and impactful, but I would not say it's emphasized at all.
No.
To my ears, anyway.
I would agree.
Okay. So I would say, in terms of tonal balance where bass is concerned, I'd say it's like a perceived flat tuning.
Yeah.
All right. Good. So you agree. So,
Yes.
so bass and then mids, highs, the whole thing is just neutral. Like I said, pretty much dead center of what I would almost consider dead center neutral.
Yeah.
To my ears. Again, neutrality is a range.
Yes.
But so excited am I for this headphone. We've waited for it for so long, and now it's here. And by the way, it's also beautifully built.
It is.
Oh my gosh! So the quality of the build is exceptional.
Yeah.
It feels like it's hewn from like a single ingot of something.
It does. Yeah.
It's not overly heavy at 500 grams for a planar magnetic headphone, and they distribute the weight beautifully over the head.
They do.
It's so well built. They mentioned they drop tested it.
Yeah.
But if you have an Arashi, do not drop your Arashi.
Yes.
But this will be a CanJam SoCal making its debut.
They're also going to have a new amplifier that they're pairing with this headphone, specifically designed for the two together. It's called the V53.
I want to hear what something designed to drive it sounds like. 'Cause everything we've driven it with is just, it sounded gorgeous.
Yeah. This is Dan Clark Audio's E3. It is their most recent headphone. It's not a flagship, but in my opinion, it's actually probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, from Dan Clark Audio of all time. So the E3 is the first headphone in their line with the 5th generation of their V planar driver design. And it also has some really cool tweaks to the AMTS system, that acoustic metamaterial tuning system inside that sculpts the signature. They've made some cool tweaks in there to get to a signature that, to me, is more of a perceived referencey, perceived neutral sound. You prefer the stealth.
I prefer the stealth.
Yep.
And to me, the E3 is phenomenal, but it has a little bit more energy in the upper registers relative to the stealth. That comparing the two, but you know what? It's a compliment to the E3 that we're even comparing the two.
Yeah,
and that you prefer it.
I do.
Yeah, to the flagship.
Yep, absolutely. Now, to go more in depth on that, we've done a full video on the E3. You went out to San Diego, sat down with Dan Clark, talked about their design and how they came up with this model, a technology that's gone inside. And we even do full review and measurements in that video as well. So definitely check it out. But one last thing I want to mention real quick is the physical design of this headphone. So this is built with titanium, aluminum, and carbon. It's a very lightweight system. It does have that collapsible headband design that we've seen on the Stealth and the Expanse. And it's a closed back headphone. So this is Gorilla Glass here. So even though it's glass, it's lightweight. And if you happen to drop it, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you happen to drop it, it can handle a tumble or two.
Don't drop it.
Yeah, don't drop it. But definitely check it out when you stop by Dan Clark Audio's exhibit at CanJam SoCal. So this is Audio-Technica's ATH-ADX 5000, and I'm mentioning it because I don't feel like you can talk about Audio-Technica without mentioning this headphone specifically, because it is my absolute favorite in their entire lineup. It sounds so wonderful. It's so incredibly comfortable. I just want to spend so much time with this. But anybody looking at the screen right now is probably wondering, why are they holding up two of the same headphone? That's kind of weird. Well, it's because we're not.
No.
They're showing off something new at CanJam SoCal with a brand new model.
Yeah, so this is the Audio-Technica ATH-ADX 3000.
Yes.
And it will be launching at CanJam SoCal.
Yeah.
And the goal with this, I think, was to bring much of the magic of the ADX 5000 at half the price.
Right.
And I think they succeeded. So there are some changes. I'm going to list them really quickly. It has a pure iron magnetic circuit versus the Permandir circuit in that one.
Yeah.
A resin frame versus magnesium, velour versus Alcantara pads, polyester versus Alcantara band. It adds 10 grams to the to the weight.
That's negligible.
Negligible, given how light that one is already.
Yeah.
Because these headphones both feel like sometimes like you don't even have a headphone on your head.
Yeah.
And that's how comfortable they are. And that actually means a lot to both of us. But the sound to me is still the most important thing.
Right.
And the ADX 5000 I've described as a smooth bright. And I mean, it's 2 words, but it's a great description in my opinion, because yes, treble-wise, it's more than I usually like on balance, but yet it's smooth enough in that respect that I don't EQ that.
Right.
The bass is maybe a little leaner than I would like. For you, probably spot on.
Yes.
But for me, you know, it's still enough that, and extended enough that I don't EQ that either. So it's a headphone that un-EQ'd we both agree on, which we don't often do.
Right.
Now the ADX 3000 brings so much of the magic of the 5000 sonically. I would say on balance, if I had to say between the two, one's more refined, the 5000 is, but the 3000 might bring a bit more richness to the mix. I was comparing the two of them, had to adjust volume because again, more sensitivity, lower impedance, more sensitivity. And again, so it might be better for something like a portable setup.
Yeah.
It's close enough for me that if you had the 5000 and I was looking for it and we had a 3000 here, I'd be perfectly happy grabbing a 3000 at half the price. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So they're launching it at CanJam SoCal. It's the Audio-Technica ATH ADX 3000. Do not miss it.
And it's not just on the flagship side of things where Audio-Technica is changing things up with one of their classic headphones. This is Audio-Technica's ATH R70X. It's a classic in our community. It's been around for a number of years now, but it has earned a lot of love in the community, and deservedly so, because it's a classic for its sound signature and overall value.
Yeah.
Now, they've teamed up, Audio-Technica has, with Apos Audio, and they're going to be showing off a new headphone at both exhibits, which is this, the Apos Audio-Technica ATH R70X Refine. That is a long name.
That's a long name. So yes, this is the Apos Audio-Technica ATH R70X Refine.
Yeah.
It will be at both exhibits, the Apos Audio exhibit and the Audio-Technica exhibit, like you said. This is a big deal because that is a big deal.
Right.
So the R70X is such a classic in the community, so well regarded for the price, that a refinement of it is a big deal, especially when it's limited edition, which I'll get to. What are the differences? Obviously, visually, you can tell. Let me just look at them.
Yeah.
There is a black and gold colorway with the Refine. Thicker velour pads developed in-house by Audio-Technica. And they describe it as the Refine offers a slightly warmer, deeper, and fuller sound compared to the original. Okay, I can get with that. So because I was comparing the two. If you listen to, but it's still an R70X.
Right.
Is my point. And if you listen to the R70X, or you already heard it and you love it, you're going to love the R70X Refine. If you don't, if you're one of those rare people who doesn't, I have to imagine most people hear the R70X and at minimum say it's good,
right,
and at best say it's outstanding for the money. So the R70X Refine is going to be even better. It's also $50 less.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. It's already an affordable headphone to begin with, which is part of what makes it so popular.
Right.
So this is going to be $50 less. However, they're only making 1,000 of them.
Yes.
So it's limited to 1,000 units. And given the popularity of that model and the price of that model, it's probably going to go very quickly.
Yeah.
So it behooves you at CanJam SoCal to make sure not to miss this before you miss it. This is, again, going to be both Audio-Technica's exhibit and the Apos Audio exhibit. So I was just talking to a headphone engineer. We were just chit-chatting, and I asked him at one point, so what other headphones are you listening to that aren't yours, that you guys don't make?
Right. And
the first headphone he mentioned was, he asked me, have you heard the FIO FT1? And immediately thought of you because you asked me the same thing at CanJam.
Yeah, I heard it at CanJam Shanghai.
Yeah, Shanghai.
And I came to you because, to me, this is a sound signature that it's not what I would typically go for, but it's very well done. To me, it's like a bass heady sound signature. So there's some bass emphasis in the low end, but it's so well done throughout the entire range.
Yeah, the balance is lovely.
Yes.
So it probably sounds more bass emphasized to you than me relative to our tastes.
Yeah, of course.
But it does have some bass emphasis. But the overall balance is actually quite lovely, like a smoother sounding, richer tone. But it is a lovely sounding headphone. I can see why the gentleman that I'm talking about mentioned it to me, and why you even pulled me aside in Shanghai to ask me if I'd heard it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it is. It's $150 to start. I should mention that. And that's part of it. And that's what this gentleman I was talking about said. It's a great value. FIO's first closed back headphone. Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's their first close because they have the FT3, FT5, and JT1, all of those are open back.
Okay, so it's the first closed back headphone. American black walnut solid wood cups, and for the price, the finish on these is actually quite lovely.
It really is.
So very nice pieces of wood they've used. 60 millimeter dynamic driver, nanofiber composite diaphragm, ultrafine Japanese CCAW voice coil,
Which is copper-clad aluminum wire.
yeah, 25 millimeter diameter coil, W-shaped suspension gasket, U-shaped acoustic damping tube, 32 ohms, and like other FIO products, like they usually do, it's packaged actually quite lovely.
It is.
So it comes with a really nice carrying case, like a hard side zip-up carrying case. And it comes with 3.5 and 4.4 millimeter terminated cables.
Yeah.
They're 1.5 meters long, silver-plated OFC. Oxygen, I think that's oxygen-free copper.
Yep.
24 gauge. Anyway, $150. Lovely balance. When a headphone engineer I respect is mentioning this as, one of the first recommendations that came to mind.
Yeah.
I think that's a can't miss headphone for sure at FIO's exhibit. This is a unique looking headphone.
Yeah, it is.
It's the DMS Project Omega. As the name suggests, it was designed by well-known reviewer in our community, DMS.
Right.
I'm a real name kind of guy, so I call him Douglas. So I'm going with Douglas. So Douglas designed these. Douglas is DMS. He designed these. It's a passion project that he's worked on for quite some time.
Right.
And he's done so much iterating with it, tuning, measuring, listening, and it ended up as this, a wonderful sounding headphone.
Yeah.
It has a very modest appearance. It's a 3D printed chassis.
Yeah.
And it has a very modest appearance, but don't let its modest appearance fool you. This is an outstanding headphone.
Yeah.
I would call it kind of audiophile studio monitor type sound.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are going to dig it. It's very nice and open sounding, images very well, maybe because it's so open. So as dynamic headphone goes, it's an open back dynamic, and it's extremely open back. I mean, look at it. You're actually looking at the back of the driver assembly there. Again, 3D printed housing, handcrafted in Tennessee. It has a repairable modular design, and it comes with Listen More Cables, which is the house brand of cables from headphones.com.
Yes.
Which is kind of neat. And it'll only be sold for a year. Is that true still?
That is still true. So he does small batch runs. I believe it's the second or third batch right now. And at the end of that 1 year period, the files that they use for development are actually going open source. So they're going to stop selling it, and it's out for anybody.
Oh, that's very cool. But since I can't build anything,
Yeah.
I'm so not handy. I'll have to go with a commercial version if I'm going to get one. But yeah, so because I'm not building one. So that's actually very cool that he's doing that. I didn't know that. So this is the DMS Project Omega, available only for a year.
Yeah.
And don't miss it at headphones.com's exhibit, Exceptional Headphone.
Noble Audio will be bringing the final production version of their Noble Audio Focus Apollo to CanJam SoCal, and I am extremely excited about this one. Noble describes the Focus Apollo as the patented world's first hybrid dual-driver headphone with a 40mm dynamic driver and a 14mm planar magnetic driver. It has an anodized aluminum frame mounted with Korean protein leather and memory foam ear pads. It features active noise cancellation, a pass-through transparency mode, Bluetooth 5.3 with multi-point pairing, and up to 80 hours of battery life. I had a chance to audition a pre-production version of the Focus Apollo ahead of CanJam London, and since then they've made improvements to the overall fit and finish, so I know for certain that the production version is a must-hear for me.
So the headphones we're holding now, I don't even think are technically out yet.
Right, I don't think so.
I think they made a debut in Japan earlier, and then now I think they're making their Western debut at CanJam SoCal. So this is the final D8000 DC. You're holding the final D8000 DC Pro.
Yes.
And these are the latest evolution, kind of a redo of a rather popular model that's been out for years from Final, an over-ear planar magnetic headphone called the Final D8000. And we have a bit of a history with the D8000 here. It's a special headphone for me. I remember hearing, I think, some of the earliest prototypes that they developed of the D8000 many years ago in Tokyo.
Yep.
And then over their development time, they'd sent more prototypes to us here at Headfi HQ to give feedback on.
Yeah.
And then they sent the final D8000 production unit, which is actually, I just noticed over my shoulder in the background where it's been through this whole shoot. And that's a very special headphone for me. I still adore it to this day. And these are kind of a redo of the D8000 platform, though they look a lot like the D8000 that you know.
Yes.
So DC actually means or stands for da capo, which means it's a musical term for from the beginning. And that's what they wanted to do with these DC models, was start over from the beginning and redo the D8000 concept to make it better. So some of the changes, we don't have time to go over all of them because they made a lot of changes.
They did.
So single-side magnetic system eliminates sound interference caused by the magnet's position between the user's ear and the diaphragm. The development that one of the key developments for the D8000, the original, was something called AFDS,
Right.
Aerofilm Damping System. They redid that, optimized that from all they've learned in these years.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have time to go over all this. But they also did redesign the ear pad structure. A thicker and higher volume design smooths the overall sound presentation.
Yeah.
All right. I will say this. If you love the D8000, you will love these even more.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that with tremendous confidence because it still sounds like D8000-ish, but refined.
Yeah.
And the difference between the models we're holding is I'm holding the D8000 DC, you're holding the D8000 DC Pro, and Pro would suggest maybe that it was made for the Pro market.
I can see that.
And the reason you're holding that is because that's more to your tastes.
Mm-hmm.
This is more to my tastes.
Right.
So listening to both of them, I would say that the Pro version has a bit more treble. It's a bit more incisive sounding.
Yeah.
And the bass is more taut.
Yeah, tighter.
There seems to be a little bit more bass with the D8000 DC, the non-Pro version, and just kind of a smoother tonality. That said, they clearly sound like siblings, which they are.
Yeah.
But they're different enough that they deserve to be two different models within the family. You would prefer that one. I prefer this one. So given the popularity of the D8000, how long it's been out, I think these are very important models that I'm so excited to see being launched at our show in SoCal. Now, while we're talking about Final, I wanted to quickly mention something else that they'll be showcasing at CanJam SoCal, which we've seen at another show somewhere. I don't remember where. We go to so many shows all over the place. But they're going to show it at CanJam SoCal, and it's called Digital Twin Audio Simulation, or DTAS.
Yeah.
And what they do is they scan the upper body and the shape of the user's outer ear to create an acoustic simulation unique to each user. So it sounds like an HRTF-related thing.
It does, yeah.
Head-related transfer function, for those who know. The first thing they're going to do with it is something called personalized natural timbre experience, allowing the user to hear the most natural timbre they have ever experienced through a pair of IEMs.
Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty awesome to me.
Yes. Okay. So when I've seen them doing DTAS, it was so busy that I didn't get a chance to try it myself. So I'm hoping at CanJam SoCal I will get that chance. And I say the first thing they're going to do with this personalized natural timbre experience because they're saying that that's just the first step and there's more to come.
Mm-hmm.
So this DTAS thing is something I absolutely want to try this time. Now, the team from HED, HEDD, is going to be joining us from Berlin.
Yeah.
And I love when they come out to our CanJam events because they're like such an incredibly nice team.
Yeah.
And yet you can talk to them about like the most detailed engineering discussions. So they're just fun to hang out with. But they're going to be coming from Berlin, and they're going to be mostly hanging out at the headphones.com exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be launching a new headphone at CanJam SoCal called the Headphone 2 GT.
Right.
Now, I am holding their Headphone 2.
Yes.
I love this headphone, but I wish I was holding the Headphone 2 GT. They couldn't get it done in time for our video.
Yeah.
But I've been talking to Freddie about this one for quite a while, and it sounds like something I definitely want to hear. So let's start with this Headphone 2 first.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Headphone 2, and it was launched last year at CanJam London to much fanfare. I mean, long lines, and it went over very, very well. Now, this uses their AMT driver technology, which is Air Motion Transformer. This is a very fast and responsive driver, very resolving. I wish we had the time to discuss the details of the operating principles behind it, but we don't have the time. And I love pretending like it's just about time. I actually am not qualified to discuss its operating principles in detail, but they do have information on the website. But it is fast and resolving.
Mm-hmm.
The Headphone 2 is a more unforgiving signature. I think it's more geared for engineers.
Yeah, I think so.
Sound engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And I will EQ it sometimes to be a bit more forgiving. Beautiful sounding headphone, though.
Oh, yeah.
But the Headphone 2 GT is, and they say this, you know, we men in our car analogies.
Yeah.
They say that it's a Gran Turismo to the Headphone 2's race car.
Yeah.
That is, it's more comfortable, more forgiving. And that sounds something I would definitely want from this platform. They say the GT adopts the analytical clarity of the 2, adding a warmer sonic signature and premium comfort experience. The new air compliance tuning system creates impactful bass alongside a warmer mid-range and sparkling top end to deliver the emotion within the music. And that sounds like what I'm already trying to do when I do EQ it.
Yeah, that sounds right up your alley.
Yes, it does. So I'm going to guess maybe you'll prefer this more professionally tuned.
I'm going to assume I prefer the 2, but I'll have to listen to find out.
Right. And the 2 GT sounds like something I would definitely. Freddie seems to be pretty certain that I'm going to prefer the 2 GT.
Yeah.
And a lot of audiophiles might. So that will be at the headphones.com exhibit with the HED team.
Yep.
And I cannot wait to hear it. It'll be my first time hearing it at CanJam SoCal. So get in line behind me, or if you get there first, I'll get behind you. Hi-Fi Man, Audeze, I almost said Mr. Speakers, but Dan Clark Audio and ZMF headphones. All of these companies are big success stories in our community.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've been around the Head-Fi community long enough, you also know that they had very humble beginnings.
They did.
I've seen these companies since they started. And I feel like we're witnessing another cool story like that with this headphone and the company that makes it. It's Orobus Acoustics, and this is the Sierra. The founder of the company is a young man named Juan Ovalle. He's a guy who has been working on this for years. He's let people at CanJams listen to all the things he's worked on over the years, getting their feedback, taking notes carefully. And then this happens. He had another model called the Everest, but this is the one that really interests me the most. CanJam New York, he asks me to listen to a prototype of this. And I told him that has the makings of a headphone I might actually end up loving.
Yeah.
The first thing from you that I'd say that about. He's had some good stuff, but this one I was just like, wow. Then he sends the production unit, this one, to us for the CanJam SoCal preview here. Wonderful headphone. So I'd say it's well within, you're the one who actually said, you heard it first. You said, yeah, you better listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to it. I would say it's within my range of neutrality, but with a nice bass emphasis.
Yeah, and tastefully done. It's well controlled.
Very well done. Staying away from the low mids as much as he could to keep that clean.
Yes.
Lovely detail throughout. Wide imaging, but coherent.
Mm-hmm.
He's had there's a lot of tricks that he's employed in this headphone in the design. It's a fully 3D printed chassis, by the way, 3D printed aluminum headband, so sintered aluminum headband, and it's just so well done. It's going to be at the Mimic Audio exhibit.
And the Source AV.
And the TSAV exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
So look for Juan with Orobus Acoustics and listen to the Sierra, because I think we're witnessing another cool story. In our community, when you hear Deconi Audio, you think earpads, replacement earpads.
Exactly.
And they're going to have those at CanJam SoCal, so make sure to go to their exhibit and try all their different earpads to tune your headphones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. That said, for CanJam SoCal, they contacted us and said, hey, we're going to be introducing a new cable system that's a cable adapter system.
Yeah.
And I'm smiling because I thought I've seen it all, and I wasn't really particularly excited about it at first. And then it arrived, and we're like, hey, they're doing something different. This is actually very cool. It's their Deconi Audio ensemble cable system, and it is actually different. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastically novel system.
Yes.
So what I have here, for example, is half of the cable, this is currently terminated in Sennheiser's HD600 connector with a disconnected Y-split. On this side, I have a disconnected Y-split with the device connector as well. So basically what this is you have two pieces of the cable. They come together here in the middle. There's a locking system. It's actually detented.
Yeah, and it's keyed.
It's keyed, yeah. And it holds into place. And basically what this allows you to do is if you have multiple halves of this end, it lets you connect it to multiple headphones. You're only connecting one cable. So it brings the overall cost down because you're not buying full cables all the way around. And then potentially, let's say you have like a cat and something gets chewed on, you're only replacing the portion that's chewed, which is nice.
Yes.
So they have a number of connectors available for this. So for example, on the table here, we have the 3.5 millimeter mono that's currently connected to the Hi-Fi Man. We have the 4-pin mini XLR, which is on the Audeze and ZMF headphones. And then we have an HD600 connector, which is on the Sennheiser.
And I want to mention that one in particular because the HD600 connector is one, that's an old style connector.
Yeah.
And I generally would not want to, just constantly unplug and replug it in to change cables all the time because it's a connector that's been known to have a little bit of wear and tear on the headphone side.
It can, yeah.
And connectivity issues sometimes. So being able to leave that plugged in and then still being able to swap out for different connectors, in this case, what do they have, 4.4 millimeter balanced?
Yeah, 4.4 millimeter and 6.35 millimeter are your two connections on the device side. And there's two versions of the cable. So what I have here is the blue sleeved, which is a Deconi blue. It's a cloth wrapped silver. They also have a braided silver plated copper cable, which is we have up here on the table.
The one that's not blue.
Now, we don't have final pricing, but talking with the guys at Deconi Audio, from what they were saying, these are going to come in very reasonably priced. So I'm definitely looking forward to finding out what that final pricing is going to be.
Yeah, I think people are going to love this system. Hi-Fi for All will be exhibiting at CanJam SoCal. I think it's their first time exhibiting at CanJam.
Yeah, I think so.
Welcome to CanJam Hi-Fi for All. So they're from San Francisco, and if you go to their website, they sell DIY parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they have a very affordable headphone stand that looks quite nice.
Yeah, they do.
We must order one. So I think we'll be adding this soon too. And this is kind of the main draw, I think.
Yeah.
So this is the HFA Dahlia. It's an open back over-ear headphone, and it was developed by Nick Hutchins of Hi-Fi for All. So it uses, I think it's a Timpani 50 millimeter peerless dynamic driver, so a nice premium dynamic driver.
Right.
But really the key is it uses a 2-stage resonator system with currently 2 tunings available. They may offer more tunings later.
Yeah.
So right now they have dynamic and balanced. All right. The best way for me to explain this is just to show it to you real quick. I know Brian's nervous because I'm so not handy. And but Nick sent me a video on how to do this, and it's actually quite easy.
Yeah.
So I want to show you first the core resonator. That's over the driver. And it's not, I don't think the core resonator is much made to be user swappable. So this is made to be part of the headphone. And it has a ring array of Helmholtz resonators over the driver, captures some of the airflow coming off the driver. Primary purpose, primarily to tune the treble, to smooth the treble.
Right.
But there's also an earpad resonator
Yeah.
that the earpad mounts to. And you can barely see this one because this is the black one, which is the dynamic. No, this is the balanced one.
That's the balanced
You're holding
one.
the dynamic one, I think. And I guess let me show that. So the earpad mounts to this, then together they mount to the headphone. This also uses Helmholtz resonators, a ring array of Helmholtz resonators that are designed to absorb the airflow coming off the ear cup and the airflow as it enters the earpad. So very cool design. The earpad, by the way, is from ZMF headphones.
Yes.
All right, so the balance tuning is what he thinks, what Nick thinks most people will prefer, more of a linear response, smooth treble, good bass. The dynamic, which is this one, this is actually dynamic, a bit more of a V-shaped tuning, a bit more bass, a bit more treble. This is what came installed, so that's what I spent the most time listening to. And actually, it's a pretty balanced tuning,
Yeah.
even though it's the dynamic choice. It's a pretty balanced tuning. I don't know that I would describe it as V-shaped. It's kind of monitor sounding to me. So it was tuned with the help of the Bay Area Head-Fi community.
Yeah.
And it sounds like something that a bunch of headfires would want to hear.
Exactly.
So it's a balanced tuning that I think a lot of people want to hear. It images well, and it actually is quite resolving, as dynamic headphones go for sure. And so this, I think, is the main draw at Hi-Fi for All's exhibit.
Yeah.
I think it's the beginning of potentially another really cool startup story with respect to headphones. So Hi-Fi for All's exhibit is a can't miss for the Dahlia for sure. When I went to the Hong Kong AV show in August, so not even a couple months ago,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time at the Sendy Audio Civga exhibit. This is these are companies that are quite popular in our community, and they're sister companies essentially. So Sendy Audio makes their more premium stuff. Civga makes their more affordable stuff. Okay, so you know when you listen to a headphone, I want to start with the one you're holding, which is the Sendy Audio Peacock. That's their flagship. You know when you listen to a headphone and it reminds you of another headphone, even if they don't sound exactly like her?
Sure.
Do you get where I'm going?
Yeah, I do.
I hope you guys get where I'm going. That one had that effect on me. So I sat down and listened to it, and right away I thought of another headphone I love, the Mezzo Audio Empyrean, the original version, version 1.
Yeah.
It's a headphone that's resolving, but then has like a smoother, richer tone.
Yeah.
It's very relaxing. I can listen to it for hours. The Peacock is one of those types of headphones. So again, it doesn't sound like an OG Empyrean, but it reminds me of it nevertheless.
Yeah.
Images beautifully, and it is resolving. Did I say what kind of driver it has yet?
Not yet.
Oh, 88 millimeter planar magnetic driver in what they call a quad former design, 4 coils and double-sided magnets. It is 50 ohms, aviation aluminum housing, goatskin leather.
Oh, it's very nice soft leather.
Yeah, so goats obviously have very supple skin, as evidenced by that headphone. Memory foam ear pad, CNC grill with peacock feather pattern. I think that's a beautiful pattern, by the way.
I do too.
So that is a headphone I think you absolutely have to check out if you want that relaxed. If you're looking for something that's like microscopy, you know, like really incisive detail,
Right.
really forward detail. That's not the headphone. Neither is the original Empyrean, right?
No, definitely not.
It's about enough resolution, but resolving, relaxing sound.
Yes.
Anyway, but I want to focus more on this one, or at least as much on this one, which is the Civga P2 Pro. It's a lot more affordable.
Yeah, and between the two, that's the one that's more sonically appealing to me too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, it's also a planar magnetic headphone, 97 by 76 millimeter planar magnetic driver, 32 ohms, 180 degree swiveling ear cups, solid wood housing, and they say unique ear pad design. Absolutely true.
Very true.
High protein leather plus velvet, and then they analyzed various face shapes, and there are some unique contours to this, and fortunately, my face is one of the ones that fits very well. Described as a clear and bright sound. That's one of the descriptions they use on their website. I would say clear.
I'd agree with clear.
I don't know that I'd go bright.
Probably not.
I would not say bright. So to me, this is another smooth sounding headphone that, again, resolving. For the price, it's about the resolution I'd expect for the price and that kind of a signature.
Yeah.
Rich bass. So nice, thick, impactful bass. But I wouldn't call it a bass. I wouldn't call it a bass head headphone, but it's definitely rich in tone.
Yeah.
But there is something about this headphone I want to definitely point out, and it's the imaging. So it has a very unique imaging. It's quite wide, but yet the vocals, for whatever reason, seem more anchored to me.
Okay, yeah.
And so almost like there's a center channel.
Yeah.
I heard this when I was in Hong Kong. Kind of forgot about it because I listened to a zillion other things whilst I was there. And then when this arrived at HeadFi HQ, I remembered it right away when I listened to it.
Yeah.
There it was again. And I know I might be describing something that might sound distracting, but it's not at all. I actually find it enjoyable.
Right.
I really like the way this images. That unique aspect of this headphone and that low price. Listen, in absolute terms, the Peacock's the better headphone for me. But this one I'm almost a little more excited about because of the more affordable price and that unique imaging. And yeah, this is at their exhibit. Definitely listen to the flagship, but try the P2 Pro and let me know what you think. Now, earlier in that section where we talked about cost no object, flagship non-electrostatic headphones, we talked about the RAL 1995 Imanis, an incredible ribbon driver flagship headphone.
Yeah.
Also very, very expensive, very cost no object. But also in RAL 1995's lineup is a model below it called the RAL 1995 Magna.
Yeah.
And the Magna is also incredible. It does a fantastic job imitating the Imanis.
Yeah.
For a lot less money. So still very expensive, but it's a lot less very expensive than the Imanis.
Right.
Right? So how do they compare? It does so much of what the Imanis does. But for a lot less money in absolute terms.
Yeah.
Now, there's some details I didn't say in the last section that I should mention here that is true of both headphones. So the Magna has 2 ribbons per side. The Imanis has 3 ribbons per side.
Right.
And what I'm about to say applies to both headphones. Each ribbon is tuned slightly differently so they cannot repeat errors the same way.
Which I think is a really cool design.
And it's a really cool way to put it.
Yes.
And whatever that means, it's working really beautifully in both of these headphones.
Yeah.
I should have also mentioned that they require a transformer with most headphone amplifiers because the impedance they present to the amplifier, let's just say, is probably too low to be friendly for most headphone amplifiers. So there are a couple of headphone amps I'm aware of that will drive it directly. Chances are you don't have one.
Yeah.
So you'll need, like the one that the Magna's sitting on there, a transformer that presents a much more friendly load to your amplifier. So I think that one presents a 32 ohm load to your amplifier. That would, I think any headphone amplifier would be fine with that, and then gives the headphone what it wants.
Yeah.
I should also mention that the ear pads are made of lamb suede and perforated leather.
Yeah.
That's also true of both headphones. Also true of both headphones is they're incredible.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Okay, tonal balance to my ears is similar.
Yeah.
Again, great extension, tremendous resolution. The Imanis just gives you a little more. And in audio, I think we chase a lot of diminishing returns. If you can afford the Imanis, and you love the sound of both headphones, make the stretch because you'll get a little bit more resolution, just a little bit more magic. But you know what? The Magna comes close enough that, if you're like me and you can't make that stretch, I think you'd be perfectly happy with the Magna.
Oh,
Either way, you've got to listen to both if you haven't heard these. And if you've only heard like RAL's kind of older headphone, the SR1A, which is also a very good headphone, these are just, again, orders of magnitude better. Some of the best. So the RAL 1995 headphones, you just can't miss those at CanJam SoCal. Sony will be exhibiting at CanJam SoCal, and a couple of members of their team from Sony's Japan headquarters will also be joining us, which I'm very excited about. I had a chat with Tomohiro Matsuo, whom his friends call Bandai Matsuo, and Bandai confirmed with me that Sony, in addition to their other headphones, will be showing their new Sony MDR M1 closed-back studio monitor headphone. As someone who got his start in HeadFi as a teenager eons ago with the Sony MDR V6, I can't wait to hear the MDR M1. The Sony MDR M1 uses one 40mm dynamic driver per side and has high passive sound isolation for monitoring. Bandai also confirmed that Sony will be showing their open-back studio monitor headphone, the Sony MDR MV1, which was released last year. The MDR MV1 also uses one 40mm dynamic driver per side. I had a chance to hear the MDR MV1 at the E-Earphone Festival in Tokyo last year and was impressed with its bass, which I found impressive for an open-back headphone. I'm looking forward to hearing it again at CanJam SoCal.
Now, before we move on from headphones, I wanted to make a quick mention of a few items that we don't currently have on hand, but will no doubt be priority stops for many of you, starting with the Austrian Audio Composer. The Composer is a headphone that has been receiving considerable praise since it was introduced, with good reason, and you'll be able to audition it at Vanna's exhibit. Metaxas and Sens will be showing their eye-catching ethereal electrostatic headphone amplifier, and I hope that also means we'll be seeing their upcoming X1 electrostatic headphone as well. T&A will be at CanJam SoCal, and while I have experience with their wired, open-back Solitaire P, I'm hoping I finally get a chance to try their flagship Cost No Object Solitaire T wireless active noise cancelling headphone. It's been on my audition list for quite a while. Mimic Audio will be showing the Modhouse Tungsten, which is a headphone that I know many of you are looking forward to trying because I'm regularly asked, where's the tungsten? And now you know where to head first. Another company that you'll likely be looking for is Stax, and Stax will be joining Woo Audio in the Anaheim room, so stop by if you're looking to try out their incredible flagship, the Stax SR-X9000. Technics will be showing their line of headphones, and I'm interested in checking out their EAH A800, that's a heck of a name to say out loud, wireless noise-canceling headphone that comes in right around $350. VZR is returning for another CanJam SoCal, and that means you'll be able to experience the VZR Model 1, a headphone that has taken many headfires by surprise since we first saw them at CanJam SoCal 2021. And last, but certainly not least, Warwick Acoustics will be showing their popular Bravura and Aperio headphone systems. There's always a queue to check these out, so if they're on your list, make sure to get there early. Enhance your CanJam SoCal experience with 6 unique seminars over the 2 days. Seats are limited and sessions won't be repeated, so plan your schedule wisely and arrive early to secure a good seat. Find all seminars in the Santa Barbara room. Our Saturday seminar schedule kicks off at noon when Headphones.com's Blaine Lacrosse, whom many of you may know as Mad Economist, will be giving a talk titled, "These Are the Dark Ages, the Problems of Current Headphone Measurements." Headphones have been measured for over 50 years now, and yet we still can't predict listeners' impressions of headphones like we can with speakers. In the absence of good predictive results from measurements, we've entered an era of fundamental doubt about the ability of objective measures to provide a full analysis of headphones, and many completely unevidenced measurements have been proposed in an attempt to fill this gap. We have progress, but also dogma, mysticism, confusion, and fanatical interpretations of what audio data is and means. We are living in the dark ages. These problems won't be solved quickly, but let's identify them to start working towards the headphone renaissance.
Next up, join Rob Watts, digital design consultant for Chord Electronics, for a talk titled Digital Isn't at 2 p.m. Digital is digital. It's all ones and zeros, except that no, it isn't. Beyond the fundamentals of the digital to analog conversion process, there are a host of additional factors that can dramatically affect the sound of your DAC and consequently what you will hear through your signal chain. Discover how power supplies, analog devices and circuit design, galvanic isolation, digital cables, and more can dictate your listening experience. But most importantly, learn how sometimes digital isn't.
Closing out our Saturday seminars, Constantine Davey, acoustic engineer at USound and whom many of you already know as Oratory 1990, Constantine will be presenting MIMS speakers, what they can and can't do, starting at 3 p.m. Loudspeakers have come a long way, and conventional manufacturing techniques are tickling the limits. With the advent of MIMS, new possibilities open up. But what actually is a MIMS speaker? How many different types are there? In this seminar, we'll learn which limits will be expanded with this technology and which limits still stand. Learn about applications for these speakers and whether or not they will replace conventional speakers.
On Sunday, September 29th, come spend an hour with Dr. Sean Olive, Senior Fellow of Acoustic Research at Harman International, for a talk titled New Headphone Target Curves Defined on the B&K 5128. How different do they sound, and which one is more preferred? The release of the Brüel & Kjær 5128 HATS, that's Head and Torso Simulator, in 2018, ushered in a new standard in accurate measurements of headphones. Its introduction also meant that headphone target curves defined on the older standard were no longer valid when measured on the 5128. Since then, several different headphone target curves for the 5128 have been proposed, but most lack scientific validation based on controlled listening tests. This raises an important question. How different do they sound from one another, and which one is most preferred? Sean's talk will give an overview of the various headphone target curves proposed, how they were derived, and some analysis of how different they sound from one another.
Continuing our Sunday seminar lineup at 2 p.m., Rob Watts will be returning for a talk titled Critical Listening, How to Judge. Many designers use listening tests to improve the design of their products. But since the provenance of recordings are unknown, how can one be sure that genuine improvements are being made so that real progress towards transparent reproduction is being achieved? It is very easy to think that an improvement is actually better when it's worse. Objectively assessing sound quality is key, and this seminar will explain how. This will be followed by a Q&A session when you can ask Rob any question about digital audio.
And finally, bringing the CanJam SoCal 2024 seminar schedule to a close, join ZMF Headphones power couple Bevan and Zach Merbach at 3 p.m. as they discuss how to start a headphone company. Many of today's most beloved and coveted headphones come from startup brands that didn't even exist not too long ago. Will you be next? Beyond tuning, beyond prototypes, beyond the first production batch, learn what it takes to truly start a successful headphone company in the pursuit of audio nirvana. Join Zach and Bevan as they share what to do, what not to do, and so much more. Again, each of these seminars will be taking place in the Santa Barbara room, located just around the corner from the main exhibit area. Seating will fill quickly, so be sure you get there early to secure a spot. And we can't wait to see you there. Shit Audio will be at CanJam SoCal. They're originally from SoCal.
Yeah.
They're now also from Texas. I'm not even going to try to cover their whole line. They've grown into such an incredible company with such an incredibly diverse portfolio of products.
Yes.
All right, I just picked a few from the website. I'm going to focus on those. And then focus on one that's on the table that I use a lot. So let's start with the Valley 3, the Shit Audio Valley 3. Tube hybrid headphone amp and preamp. As they say on the site, tubes love voltage. And the Valley 3 provides a full 100 volts on the plate. So a full 100 volts on the plate versus the more typical 12 to 48 volts. The output stage is fully discrete Class AB, no op amps or chip amps. The Valley 3 is $149.
Yeah, it's a cool little device.
Yes, for $149, that's incredible. Then there's the Shit Audio Saga 2, which is a Class A zero feedback differential preamplifier, a relay potentiometer, passive or active, Class A zero feedback, 100% discrete differential, 75-volt linear power supply preamplifier with remote control and a headphone out. $279.
Yep.
I haven't used the Saga 2 yet. I should just order one. I want to see the implementation of the relay volume control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. But the one I really want to focus on is the one that's on the table, which is the Shit Audio Midgard. To me, this is an incredible amp for what you pay. It's a balanced headphone amp and preamp. It uses Shit Audio's Halo topology. That's a mixed mode feedback topology that incorporates your headphone driver into the feedback loop, offering the potential for better control at driver resonance and improved acoustic results. That's only on the balanced output. There's also an unbalanced output. Shit Audio, or Jason Stoddard from Shit Audio, said the Midgard is simply the best measuring, highest power discrete headphone amp they've ever made. So it's discrete, which is incredible.
Right.
4.8 watts RMS and 32 ohms. It's incredible because the thing's only $220 and it's made or assembled in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like the rest of their stuff. Okay, so I will say it at $220. The Shit Audio Midgard is the I want to be very careful. It's one of the best value anythings in all of HeadFi that I've so far used. It's that good.
Yeah.
And it sounds fantastic. So it's not analytical. It's not smooth. It's kind of like a right down the middle, resolving, fantastic amp. And it's a kind of a reviewer's amp. It's quiet enough that you can plug super sensitive in-ears into it, or you can plug, put it in high gain mode and then drive just about any headphone. All in one amp for $220, fully discrete. That's incredible. It's so good that when the RAL 1995 Imanis arrived, which is like a $9,000 or $10,000 headphone, that's the amp I had on the desk, plugged it in, and it sounded fantastic. Like, it was incredible. Could I find a better pairing for the Imanis? Maybe even within Shit's line. Yes, spend more money. Maybe there's something out there that's going to be better for it. But honestly, it sounded beautiful out of a Midgard. Incredible amp. So this, to me, is probably the biggest can't miss, just because the value it provides. So if you go broke with something like a $9,000 headphone, right? Yeah. And you're trying to avoid, a divorce lawyer. So, so all you've got left is, you can scrape together $220 and just that. Yep. That's the amp I'd recommend, unquestionably.
There's one category we don't often discuss in these preview videos: music. It's so foundational to our experience that it's impossible to separate from our gear. All across CanJam, you'll find a massive array of test tracks, chill tunes, and even some lo-fi beats. However, you might struggle to find your favorite songs at every exhibit. That's where preparation comes in. You've likely heard of Qobuz. For those unfamiliar, it's a digital streaming service and music store, and their entire catalog will be accessible at many CanJam SoCal exhibits. If you're bringing a portable player or smartphone to the show, and who isn't, you can add your top test tracks to your Qobuz favorites or choose from one of the many CanJam playlists. Don't have a Qobuz account? Visit their exhibit to learn about starting a free trial. Take it from me, a longtime CanJam veteran, your CanJam experience will be so much better when you have access to the songs you know and love, and Qobuz makes that super easy. Here's a pro tip. Qobuz offers offline playback, which will save you from the headache of relying on Wi-Fi or using up your precious mobile data. It's been a lifesaver for me, and I'm confident it can enhance your CanJam weekend as well. Don't miss Qobuz at virtually every exhibit this CanJam SoCal, and again at Qobuz's own exhibit for a free trial.
So if our faces are both a little red, I'm not sure what's showing on the camera. It's because Brian was making me laugh. We were doing a sound check. So Joe says, okay, say something, guys. And Brian says something like, we're going to talk about these Hi-Fi Man DAC amps. One's a little skinny, one's a little fat, or something like that. We just started cracking up. Anyway, it was funny then. Actually, it's still funny now. All right, so let's talk about the fat one. Yeah, that's the Hi-Fi Man EF1000 DAC. It's their flagship DAC amp. It is essentially part of one of our highest reference systems here at the office.
Right.
It's an incredible DAC amp, and it's a cost no object DAC amp. So inside, they have the highest realization of their Himalaya R2R DAC architecture. It's called the Himalaya Pro, and there are 4 of them inside. But I also want to focus on the amplifier section because it performs so beautifully that way.
Mm-hmm.
It has up to 13.7 watts output into 32 ohms. And about that amp section, Hi-Fi Man says that it's a newly developed, fully discrete operational amplifier module in the input stage and a fully balanced amplifier output with a combination of field effect transistors and standard transistors. And it's, of course, designed to drive just about anything, including, of course, their HE6.
Yes.
The Hi-Fi Man HE6 is pretty darn tough to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the Susvaras. And it drives all of those beautifully and just about anything else you plug into it beautifully. So if you want to hear what is one of our highest end reference systems here at Head-Fi HQ, go to Hi-Fi Man's exhibit. You're actually looking at it here. This is the Hi-Fi Man EF1000 DAC, and that Susvara unveiled. Incredible system.
Now at the other end of that spectrum,
the skinny one,
where the EF1000 DAC is showing what Hi-Fi Man can do when cost is no question. I also love what they do when they're trying to get the most out of the Hi-Fi Man Himalaya system on a budget.
Yeah.
So this EF500 uses the Hi-Fi Man Himalaya LE DAC. Still sounds fantastic. It absolutely does. And surprisingly, for the price, still does a very nice job driving the Susvara Unveiled even.
Yes.
And it has, I think it's 4.5 watts into 32 ohms. So it has a good amount of juice.
Yes.
A lot of inputs, outputs, network connectivity, which I always appreciate. You can hook it up to a router for network control, which is really nice. But it's highly affordable. And you've mentioned before in the past, you're buying a flagship headphone. Sometimes the wallet might be a little light after you buy that $8,000 headphone.
Yeah.
Well, you can do this and your wallet's not as angry.
Correct.
So if you're looking for someplace to start, pick up that combination and maybe look at the EF1000 DAC down the road.
Yeah. And the other thing I didn't mention about the EF1000 DAC that's also true of the EF500 is just some of the flexibility that it offers in controls and options, because it has oversampling and not oversampling, which is switchable. So you can hear the effect of oversampling, not oversampling, and choose which you prefer on the fly. Also, different gain settings. So that's very nice. And there's also a variety of inputs, the details of which we won't go into here, but these are very flexible DAC amps as well.
Here's some exciting news for you. Hi-End by Oz and Cake Audio are teaming up at CanJam SoCal to deliver a listening experience unlike any other. Hi-End by Oz always has incredible amplifiers from Viva Audio, like the Egoista 2A3, STX, and 845, and these amps will be paired with some of the best headphones the world has to offer. At CanJam London earlier this year, their headphone selection had me absolutely floored, and I expect it'll be the same at CanJam SoCal. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Hi-End by Oz is teaming up with Cake Audio in their exhibit room, and that tells me they have some exciting source combinations for us to try. Remember Hi-End by Oz's reel-to-reel demo from last year? I have a sneaking suspicion they're planning to top that for 2024. Cake Audio's catalog includes a number of high-end DACs and turntables, and when you feed a high-end source into something like the Egoista 845, the results can be quite jaw-dropping. Be sure to visit the Rancho Las Palmas room and discover what Cake Audio and Hi-End by Oz have planned for your ears.
The Source AV, or TSAV, will have a number of desktop systems on hand to pair with their range of headphones, including the new Aurabus Acoustic Sierra. TSAV will have amps from Woo Audio, Amps & Sound, Macintosh, Ferrum, and others, along with a lot of other gear. If you're bringing your own headphones to the show, bring those by TSAV and see how their rigs compare to your home system. TSAV always comes to CanJam SoCal loaded for bear, and they're one of those exhibits that can be like a mini show within our show. Nice outfit.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
I got the memo.
So did I. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a coincidence. We're a cult.
Yes.
We're a tube cult.
We're a cult.
Okay. It was a coincidence. But we are here to talk about a tube amp, the ZMF Headphones Aegis.
Yeah.
Love this amp.
Mm-hmm.
So we had it temporarily. It went away.
Yep.
Was very sad. Had to get our own. Got our own. All right, here it is. ZMF Headphones Aegis. It's a single-ended tube amplifier, and it's a pure tube amp in every sense of the word. There is no silicon in the circuit.
Right.
And I love that it was designed by a Head-Fi DIYer who goes by the username Lord Gwyn,
Mm-hmm.
and his real name is Keenan McKnight. And Keenan designed a beautiful amp here.
Yeah.
So if you're a Head-Fi DIYer, you've probably seen the project. It is, I'm guessing this is not a beginner-friendly project. It's a high-end tube amp for the desktop, not for beginners.
Right.
And since I couldn't solder my way out of a wet paper bag, I go for the commercial version that ZMF Headphones offers, thank goodness, because I could never build this. Now, it's a tube roller's dream as well. So you can roll a lot of different kinds of tubes. For example, with a rectifier, 5-volt 2-amp types GZ34, 5AR4, 5V4, GZ32, 5R4, 274B. I still have the 5AR4 that came installed.
Right.
Inputs are going to be 6SL7. Output, pair of power pentodes, 6V6, 6L6, EL34, EL37, KT66, KT77, KT88, 6550. We have the EL34s that came with it. I don't roll tubes as much as I used to when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of Head-Fi tube enthusiasts are big-time tube rollers.
Yeah.
If you are, you're going to love it. And if you're not, I don't roll them as much as I should. I still love it because I just love the way it sounded delivered.
Right.
We did get some tubes, extra tubes with it.
Yeah.
Have I rolled them?
I don't think so.
I have not. I really should. So this is a can't miss amp. So when you're at ZMF Headphones exhibit, which is usually a big exhibit with a zillion headphones, it's easy to be caught up in all the headphones. But do not miss the big tube amp that is the Aegis at the ZMF Headphones exhibit. It is one of my favorite amps. Please listen to it and find out why. Incredible amp. Headamp CFA3 is finally in production, so if you've been waiting to see and hear the finished version, be sure to make your way over to the Newport Beach Room and check it out. The Headamp CFA3 is Headamp's reimagined production of Kevin Gilmore's best solid-state balanced headphone amplifier design. They've spent over 2 years designing the CFA3 from the ground up. I love that it's sized to be desktop-friendly as someone with very limited desk space. So make sure to check out the CFA3 and the rest of Headamp's amps at their exhibit. Also make sure to listen to what is still regarded by many as one of the very best electrostatic headphone amplifiers in the world with their Headamp Blue Hawaii. So FIO is going to be joining us from China.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. So several years ago, I went to visit FIO at their factory in Guangzhou, China. Don't remember the exact year. Incredible facility, incredible R&D capabilities. And I understand they've since moved.
I think moved, yeah.
And updated their labs even more to be even more impressive, which I find hard to imagine, but I can't wait to visit again. From their labs have come some incredible products. FIO's always endeavored to offer incredible performance and engineering levels for reasonable prices. And I feel like in the last several years, they've just taken it up to an incredibly high level for the price.
Yeah, they have.
So let's talk about the FIO M23. This is a can't miss at FIO's exhibit. It's not even their flagship DAP.
Right.
So it's not even their flagship player. But it uses the AKM flagship DAC setup that is found in much more expensive players typically right now. And in fact, it's the most affordable DAP I know of that uses it. I'm talking about the AKM AK4191EQ and AK4499EX combo. And then the amp is THX AAA 78 Plus 4-channel. And for anybody that knows what that means, it means incredible measured performance. I also love the way it sounds.
Right.
Dead quiet with even the most sensitive in-ears, and with up to 1,000 milliwatts output at 32 ohms, you can pretty much drive whatever you want that you would reasonably drive with a DAP. So to me, when I think of the level of performance from this thing, for the money, no matter what budget you're shopping for a DAP in right now, you've got to audition this. You might save some money. I mean, it's that good.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is can't miss at FIO's exhibit. It's not even their flagship.
Now, one FIO product that is a flagship is the K19. It's the tall vertical desktop DAC amp combo that we have here. And I view this as, there's a lot of components in this that kind of make it like a big brother to the M23.
Yes.
So, for example, it does have a dual DAC system. Now, this is based on ES9039S Pro DAC chips, but it has the THX AAA 788 Plus, which is the big brother of the 78 Plus.
With Big Brother power.
With Big Brother power. Yeah. So this can put 8 watts or 8,000 milliwatts into 32 ohms from the balanced output if you're using the high gain mode.
Ultra high gain.
Ultra high gain.
Yeah.
And I think there's, 5 gain modes on this thing? So you have a lot of customization options, which means that you can use it from your, most demanding, power-hungry headphones down to your most sensitive, efficient, very, very quiet headphones in your monitors primarily. Wonderful pairing throughout the entire range.
Oh, without a doubt. So this is just another one of those components that because you can drive even the most sensitive in-ears or just about any headphone as well with that kind of power, this is one of the ones I'd call reviewer's kind of amp or DAC amp.
Yeah, it is.
Because no matter what you're reviewing in terms of headphones or earphones, it'll drive them beautifully.
Yep.
And then also if you're just an owner, not a reviewer, but just somebody with a kind of a really versatile collection of in-ears and over-ears, what a wonderful piece just to have to drive all of them. I also want to mention very quickly the R9.
Oh, yeah.
So the FiiO R9. So that's kind of another flagship, right? In a different sort of family.
And those share a lot of components.
They share a lot of components with the K19.
Yeah.
But adds a screen. So it has, there are some differences, so look up the specs. But it has a built-in screen, so it can serve the role as like a desktop DAC or a multimedia center.
Right.
So the FiiO R9 is another can't-miss flagship item from FiiO.
And now jumping from flagships to the complete opposite end, FiiO recently came out with the K11 R2R. Now the K11 R2R, like the name implies, is based on the original K11. So if anybody's not familiar, the K11 delivered 1,400 milliwatts of power into 32 ohms, 3 gain settings with multiple volume curves, which is nice. It had adjustable RGB logo lighting, USB-C inputs, optical coax inputs as well, and then you had RCA 4.4 millimeter and 6.35 millimeter outputs. Now all of that is still present on the K11 R2R. Those guts haven't changed. What has changed is the DAC inside, and this is a full R2R DAC that supports 24-bit audio.
Yes.
And like you were saying in another section, people, they're R2R DAC lovers.
Yes.
And this is $159.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, again, the level of engineering they have, and if you're curious to know how a company that does, level of engineering like FiiO does an R2R DAC at $159, you got to try the FiiO.
And it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, the K11 R2R. So here's one from FiiO that's not even out yet.
Yeah.
It is in China.
Yeah, they did a soft launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we know what the Chinese price is. They haven't established final U.S. pricing yet, but the Chinese price suggests this is going to be very affordable.
Oh, yeah.
So I have an old car. I have a 2010 Honda Fit, and it has no Bluetooth functionality in that car because it's old enough to not have Bluetooth. So to Bluetooth enable it, I use a FiiO BTR5, which I think is now discontinued.
I believe so.
And this is the FiiO BTR13, which you'll also be able to use to Bluetooth enable your old Bluetoothless car. So, and do other things, because it can also be a USB DAC amp. It can be a dongle DAC amp. Or a Bluetooth DAC amp.
Right.
All right. So it has dual CS 43131 DACs, fully balanced design, 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter output, so you can drive your headphones and earphones. 220 milliwatts output. So that's actually pretty substantial for something this size. Bluetooth 5.1 with SBC, AAC, aptX, aptX HD, aptX Adaptive, aptX Low Latency, and LDAC.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So many options.
So many options. USB-C input and charging, 8-hour runtime on around a 2-hour charge. 0.96-inch little IPS display. Global PEQ, which is very cool. I haven't played with that yet. Car mode. So that's a patented functionality that turns on and off with your car, which I actually use with the BTR5. You keep it plugged in, turn on your car. Once it detects power, it turns on.
Yep.
When you shut it off, it turns off. That's actually a lot handier than you might think. Because then your battery doesn't die when you forget to turn it off. Black and blue finishes, 28.6 grams, so it's quite light, built-in clip. FiiO app compatible, which is kind of a big deal because that gives you a lot of options.
Right.
UAC 1.0 support, and again, we don't know the price yet, but given the Chinese price, I expect it's going to be very affordable. So for all the functionality it offers, for me, again, to Bluetooth enable an old car, but it does so much more. Don't miss the FiiO BTR13, which is now going to be at CanJam SoCal.
Now, there's going to be a couple more products at FiiO that I want to mention very quickly because they weren't quite ready for the preview video, but I'm so excited they're going to be there. So first of all, they're going to have the BT11. Now, some fantastic news this week. Apple just recently announced the iPhone 16. Well, guess what, everybody? The iPhone 16 is now going to have LDAC, but not on the phone itself. So FiiO's BT13 is a USB-C dongle. It's minuscule. It's so very small.
Very small.
And it connects to any device that supports USB-C audio. So you're looking at things like the iPhone, obviously, Switch, PC, Mac, PlayStation, all of this.
Right.
The BT11 will bring SBC, aptX, aptX HD, aptX low latency, aptX adaptive, aptX lossless, and LDAC to those devices. So those of us like myself who have been only iPhone users for many years, I finally have aptX, I finally have LDAC, or at least I will as soon as I get my hands on one of these.
Yeah, so Android users don't throw stones, but I am primarily an iPhone user as well.
Yep.
But I carry two phones with me almost everywhere I go, the other one being an Android phone. And I carry that mostly, for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons is so that I have all the aptX, LDAC. I have all the options, all the codecs available to me for using different Bluetooth devices. Might I replace that then with this so that my iPhone can effectively be enabled with all that?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So that's kind of a big deal for me.
And then one more addition they'll have at their exhibit that we didn't get in time. It's FIO's DM13. Now, I know you were particularly bummed when this didn't come in time because you were so looking forward to it.
So looking forward to it, and the moment I can get my hands on one, I will have a FIO DM13. It is a portable disc player, kind of an ode to the disc man.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason this is so important to me is because, I think back, I think it was the second available model of Sony Discman in the U.S.
Yeah.
I was a teenager when I bought it. So this was a zillion years ago. And I wonder if I hadn't bought that, would I have ever started HeadFi? Would I have gone on the journey that I haven't stopped since then because I was so excited about that Discman and all the headphones I ended up buying for it? So this is the FIO DM13 is a portable CD player. It adds Bluetooth, which is a neat functionality to add.
Yeah.
With SBC, aptX, aptX HD, and aptX low latency, so you can use your Bluetooth headphones with it, which is really groovy. 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter output, so you can use all your headphones and IEMs with it. Line out and SPDIF. Internal rechargeable battery with up to 8 hours per charge of use, which is actually pretty darn good by portable CD player standards. And there's a desktop mode. I'm not sure what that entails yet. Then it has built-in electronic shock protection. I giggle when I say this because if a lot of our younger headfires aren't familiar, what do you mean electronic shock protection?
Yeah.
It means physical shock. They're probably wondering, what do you mean? Is it going to shock me? No, physical impact. Because it's physical media. You're playing a CD, you're spinning it. It's reading with a laser the data from the CD.
Right.
And then, but if you physically impact it, the laser can lose track. Right. And so if you didn't have electronic shock protection, which buffers ahead, essentially, you can have and hear skips. So this prevents that. Remember when that was a big deal?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so yeah. And it's $179, this FIO DM13. So am I excited about it? Yes. My son will be too because he's started collecting CDs. I have a pretty big CD collection, so he loves using those. But he also loves going to the record store and buying CDs. So FIO DM13, I think, we'll probably have a couple of them in my house.
Now, Topping is one of those names you see associated with offering excellent value for the dollar, and they've done it again.
Yeah.
So we have here the Topping A70 Pro headphone amplifier and D70 Pro Saber DAC, and that is one heck of a combo.
It is, and they. I'm smiling because on the community in the forums they talk about this system a lot, and it's very popular.
Yeah.
So you and I have been curious about it, wanted to hear it. Just never brought it into the office, and then Topping sent us this very system for the CanJam SoCal preview. And
we kind of got lucky.
Yeah, we were both like, yay.
Yeah.
So we got to hear it, and let me say something. My curiosity was satisfied in the best possible way. I can understand why this is a popular system. So at $1,200 for the system, so the A70 Pro amp is $500. The D70 Pro Saber DAC is $700. I want to make it clear I've only used them as a system so far, so I haven't separated them. So any comments I make about sound, for example, are going to be as a system. Let's talk about what's the specs. So the A70 Pro amp, fully balanced amp and preamp, 3-stage feedback circuit, reduces noise and high frequency distortion dynamic range of up to 147 dB or something like that. Totally believable coming from Topping.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't put on the bench yet, but anyway, up to 17 watts and a 16 ohms, and that is such an important thing because that's incredible.
Yes.
It's a powerful amp.
Yes.
We'll get back to that. That's important. A ground lift switch to remove ground loop noise, R2R volume control module, so a resistor network volume control. I'll get back to that too. Full color screen. And I want to talk about the DAC now too. So the D70 Pro Saber, I think it's still ESS's flagship DAC. It uses the 32-bit ES9039S Pro DAC.
Right.
It has switchable timbre tuning modes or timbre tuning modes, default valve mode, which I guess would be a tube emulator, and transistor mode. I haven't tried those yet. I've just kept it in default. But I am curious about what's what's the difference between default and transistor.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to try it. It has Bluetooth connectivity, so there are use cases for that are very helpful. Bluetooth 5.1 with LDAC, aptX Adaptive, aptX HD, aptX AAC, and SBC, so pretty much the whole thing. And now I just want to talk, and it has a matching display.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to start with the display. Okay, it's not the most important thing, but I dig it. So the displays match. You can have them show a VU meter that actually looks like a physical, realistic VU meter. So if you're VU meter crazy like we are, you can run 2 VU meters if you have the system. But what's also helpful sometimes is to run the VU meter on one and the FFT, the spectrum analysis display, on the other, where you can see the real-time spectrum analysis of the music you're listening to, which is really cool. But I want to focus then on the sound, though. So again, I haven't used them separately.
Right.
As a system, I thought it was going to be maybe more clinical, knowing that it's topping and it's probably going to measure incredibly well. But it's not. It's not clinical to my ears. It's not. I wouldn't even describe it that way at all.
Right.
It sounds musical, but it also sounds like something that would measure well. You know, it reminds me a little bit of the Benchmark HPA4.
Yeah.
The amp. Yeah. So in that sense, like how I feel about it. I also want to talk about the flexibility of that volume control with all the power on tap.
Yes.
Put it in high gain mode. You have up to 17 watts and a 16 ohms, so you can drive all the hard-to-drive headphones like the Hi-Fi Mansus Vara, the Abyss headphones, anything really. And then you put it in low gain mode, and that volume flexibility lets you use sensitive IEMs with no noise that I've detected.
Yeah.
Not surprising from topping. Tremendous flexibility. Again, curiosity satisfied in the best possible way. What a system. I can see why it's popular on HeadFi. Go to Topping's exhibit because they're going to have the rest of their stuff. And again, high-value stuff for the dollar.
Yeah.
But find out why this system is as popular as it is. Fantastic system.
Now, I want to take a second to talk about a company that is no stranger to CanJam SoCal. They first exhibited with us back at CanJam 2015 in Irvine. That's Questyle. So Questyle back then was showing off a desktop system, and it was a big desktop system. And the bread and butter of that system was their current mode amplification circuit. Well, nowadays, here at CanJam 2024, they're showing off this. This is the Questyle CMA 18. And the way I think about the CMA 18 is take that original desktop rig and hit it with a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids laser and turns it into this, a pocketable, handheld, portable system.
That was exactly the technology they used.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just like that system, it is fully DAC amp compatible. The DAC inside is an AKM AK4493 DAC. It does support Bluetooth connectivity with many of the codecs up to LDAC, so that's fantastic. But the key star of the show here is that current mode amplification circuit. So this has high energy current mode amplifier chips inside of here. There's 4 sets of those chips, and each develops a peak power up to 5 watts and a peak current of 2 amps, which basically tells me that this is a beast of a little portable.
It is actually, yeah.
But it's still quiet.
Yes.
Actually silent.
Yeah.
You can plug anything into this, and you're not going to have to worry about background noise.
In terms of self noise.
Yeah, exactly. Inputs and outputs, it has so many to offer, and 10 hours of battery life. So, charge it up, you're good for a whole day. Now, this is not what I think should be the only stop at Questyle's exhibit. You have been carrying around the M15 for a while now.
Yes, I sometimes carry this when I want to use my phone as a DAP.
Yeah.
So this is a cool little holder, holds the Questyle M15 for me, and this is an important little device for me because it showed me what dongle DACs had evolved into.
Yeah.
I hadn't paid attention to the market for many years, and then a couple of CanJam Londons ago, Questyle gave me one and asked me to try it. I tried it reluctantly, just thinking of my experiences with some of the earliest dongle DACs, which could be noisy sometimes, especially with in-ears. And this one, I plug it into I think the first phone I did was my Samsung Galaxy S23 or whatever I had at the time. And I plug it in, and it turned that phone into a high-end DAP, a digital audio player. So I was like, hello. This, I did not know they'd come that far in terms of self-noise. It was quiet, whereas, again, some of the other dongle DACs were not. And it just sounded like a DAP.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. This does not have a battery in it, so this runs off the phone power. And there's a newer version called the M15i.
Yeah.
We don't have that version yet.
don't.
That's probably what they'll have at CanJam SoCal. I might have to pick one up there. And there's also the new version of the M12, the M12i. So, yeah, this, if you haven't seen what dongle DACs have become, how they can turn your phone into a DAP, definitely check out Questyle's exhibit. At Bloom Audio's exhibit at CanJam SoCal, they're going to have Astell&Kern's players. Don't know that they'll have the entire lineup, but hopefully they'll have the ones I'm talking about here. I should have confirmed that first. But I want to start with the Astell&Kern Con Ultra. I feel like Astell&Kern's lineup makes more sense to me than ever before. Like in the last couple of years, they've evolved the family of players into a lineup that I understand like each model's role.
Yeah.
So starting with the sort of desktop system on the go, the Astell&Kern Con Ultra is, I believe it has the highest output of any of their players.
Mm-hmm.
It is also the thickest of their players. It's kind of the beefiest. Has 2 sets of outputs, so 4 total outputs, unbalanced and balanced for both headphones, and then a separate set for line out, pre-out.
Yeah.
And then the volume knob. Has this gigantic, gorgeous volume knob. Probably my favorite volume knob on maybe any player I've ever felt, portable player. And it sort of makes you feel when you're using it like you're using a desktop component. So they're going for a feel there. I think that is a player that will satisfy many people that are looking for maybe a player like that.
Mm-hmm.
The SE300 next to it is an R2R DAC digital audio player. And there are a lot of R2R DAC enthusiasts in our community. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
We have several different kinds of DACs here that I love, but we do have a lot of R2R DACs that I'm a big fan of.
We do.
And there's a certain sound that you might be looking for, and that scratches that itch because there are a lot of people who are looking for that, but maybe aren't finding it in a portable digital audio player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's the SE300. But the one I really want to talk about, though, is the SP3000T. The SP3000T is probably, well, I know it's my favorite Astell&Kern DAP ever, and I would say it's probably my favorite high-end digital audio player, portable player ever. Because, as you know, you work here at Head-Fi HQ, so you know we're surrounded by tube amps all over the place.
We are.
And that's because I'm a tube audio enthusiast. And this gives me the greatest sense of a tube rig in a portable player that I've ever had, more than any other portable device of its size. And, other products have used like Korg new tubes, including some of Astell&Kern's, and there's nothing wrong with the Korg new tubes. They're tubes. But this uses Raytheon JAN or JAN 6418 mil-spec vintage tubes. You can see them lit up back here. And it sounds the part.
Mm-hmm.
What am I looking for with a tube amp? I've said it before, kind of holographic soundstage, solid, fleshy, meaty objects in that soundstage, like real life. This gives it to me. And I can use it with in-ears, a tube system that I can use with in-ears.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. So this is an incredible digital audio player for me. Of course, it has solid state as well. You can go to op-amp mode. You can go to hybridize it, kind of between op-amp and tube. And it's easy on the fly. You can hear the differences on the fly. And it's just a gorgeous sounding DAP. For me, these tube lights are almost always on because it's almost always in tube mode. So don't miss the full lineup, including the flagship SP3000 models, the cost no object ones. You can't miss these at Bloom Audio's exhibit. Fantastic lineup. So several years ago, many years ago, I feel like, Abyss Headphones sent us this amp.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for like a CanJam New York preview from years ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how to pronounce the name. So let's show them how we see it.
I think they pronounce it Formula S.
Yeah, Formula S. But we show them the top panel, right? Let's show them the top panel. So it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. We're shooting the video. We have nobody to contact to confirm pronunciation of the name.
Yeah.
And so we know it's from China, and we decide to type it into an online translator to hear the Chinese pronunciation.
Yeah.
And let's just say it was something like Xiaodio or something like that. And I was like, I don't know that I want to attempt that pronunciation because I'm probably going to mangle it, as I tend to do with words. But anyway, so we decided just to go with Z Audio.
Mm-hmm.
But we had researched it for a while,
yeah,
trying to figure it out. Anyway, went with Z Audio. Fast forward, I go to an audio show. There the company is. I see the owner, and I ask him, I point at the name. I said, how do you pronounce that, by the way? And he looks at me so puzzled, and he says, 11 Audio?
Yeah.
So it's an XI. It's Roman numerals.
Apparently.
And, yeah. So he's obviously a fan of Spinal Tap.
Yep.
Because the volume goes from 0 to 11.
It does.
All right, let's talk about what it is. It's the 11 Audio Formula S. Mm-hmm. It's going to look different at CanJam SoCal because this amp's kind of flown under the radar, I think, of most people.
It has, yeah.
But it should not. There's a reason Abyss Headphones still uses it. It's going to look different. I think it's all black now, and the name is now spelled out as 11 Audio. Probably a good thing. Full Class A output, all aluminum construction, 6 watts and a 16 ohms, various outputs and inputs, so it's quite flexible that way. Alps potentiometer that, again, goes from 0 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And it's intended essentially to be a purist Class A amp for all that entails in terms of sound and heat.
Yeah.
It simply describes single set of inputs wired direct to the volume control with JPS Labs Alumaloy wire, no switches or extra circuit paths.
Mm-hmm.
Still an outstanding amp. There's a reason Abyss still uses it. So when you go to Abyss Headphones exhibit, make sure not just to listen to their headphones, which they'll have some of them plugged into that for sure.
Right.
But also just to maybe plug your own headphone into the Formula S.
Now that Formula S is going to be driven by 11 Audio's Sagra DAC in the Abyss audio room, but it's not just that system that's going to be hooked up for you to try all of their headphones.
Several systems.
There's several systems, and I want to mention what they're going to be bringing because it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
So they're also going to have an 11 Audio Broadway paired with 11 Audio's KDAC. That's going to be one system. They're going to have a Woo Audio WA23 and WA33 amp hooked up to the Rockna Wavedream Signature DAC. That's kind of sick.
Yes.
They're also going to have linear tube audio, which a lot of people may recognize as LTA. Linear tube audio's Velo amp paired with the Aero DAC. They're also going to have linear tube audio's Z10E amplifier, and that's going to be paired with the Ferrum Wanla GSE DAC. And then for the last amplifier, they're going to have the Amps and Sound Red October XL. This room sounds like it's going to be completely crazy.
It's
off
going to
the
be
rails.
insane.
Yeah.
Off the hook. Yeah, so they're also going to have, if all goes as planned, they want to have a reel-to-reel tape deck again, playing a few compilation master tapes.
Right. They were doing that at a couple of past CanJams.
Yes.
And they had some really cool tapes going.
Yeah, the sound of that system, everybody was oohing and eyeing over that.
Yeah.
So do not miss Abyss.
Bloom Audio will have the latest flagship amplifier from KN, the Soul 170HA. KN says that the Soul 170HA is the first ever headphone amplifier designed around the KT170 vacuum tube and incorporates many of the skills and technologies they developed for their 30th anniversary Pearl 30i amplifier. It's optimized for both speakers and headphones and delivers up to 18 watts per channel of pure Class A power from its balanced 4-pin XLR headphone output. Stop by the Bloom Audio exhibit and give the Soul 170HA a try.
Mass Kobo will be coming all the way from Japan to join us at CanJam SoCal. I'm always so excited to see them. And they're going to have what is easily one of the most well-regarded, cost-no-object desktop headphone amplifiers in the world with the Mass Kobo 465. Now, they usually drive, as far as I can recall, a Sony MDR CD900 ST, which is a modest but nice Sony headphone, as if to show what the magic of the 465 can bring out of a modest headphone like that Sony. Now, of course, bring your own headphones, flagship or otherwise, to their exhibit to try with the 465. Now, if you can't afford the 465, and I cannot afford a 465, then another option you might try is the Mass Kobo 475, which is their portable headphone amplifier. Now, this brings a lot of the magic, the sound of a 465, especially if you're going to be using more sensitive headphones or IEMs, which is what I usually use it with. This is a wonderful headphone amp and one I can afford and take with me anywhere. So make sure not to miss Mass Kobo's exhibit at CanJam SoCal. In all my time in audio, I can remember few completely novel tube audio circuits, but linear tube audio's Zodal design by David Burning certainly qualifies. Zodal stands for Zero Hysteresis Output Transformerless. Check out LTA's website to learn more about the Zodal circuit, which is certainly worth reading about. LTA says their Zodal amps do not have the thicker, warmer tone that many tube amps have while maintaining the liquidity and linearity of tubes. Make sure to check out Linear Tube Audio's family of headphone driving products, including one that drives electrostatics. And also check out their Aero DAC, which is the first DAC to use Zodal technology. Woo Audio is celebrating their 20-year anniversary at CanJam SoCal. So from a big Woo Audio fanboy over here, I want to say happy birthday, Woo Audio. Woo Audio is obviously known most for their tube amps, and for their 20th anniversary, Woo Audio will be launching a new flagship headphone amplifier, the name of which and the details about we don't know yet. Now, I do know that it will be replacing their WA33 Elite Edition, and it's expected to outperform the WA33 Elite Edition and yet come in at a lower price. Now, of course, Woo will also have the rest of their lineup there. I've been excited about their small, affordable tube amps, like the microscopic Woo Audio Tube Mini, and make sure to also check out the Tube Mini's optional power base. And this might be my favorite Woo Audio product ever, which is the transportable Woo Audio WA8 Eclipse. I remember going through my office with Nicolas Debard from Focal, looking for amps that drove the Focal Utopia beautifully, and the Eclipse was one of our favorite pairings. iFi Audio is one of those product developer and manufacturers that's always keeping a finger on the pulse of the HeadFi community and this community's unique needs. iFi Audio always has a wide variety of sources and amps and headphones to pair with them at their exhibit. iFi Audio also makes a nice line of cables and accessories. Now at the top of my list at the iFi Audio exhibit is one specific piece that I want to audition for myself, the iFi Audio IDSD Diablo 2. The IDSD Diablo 2 looks like a tiny but fierce DAC amp combo, so don't miss that one. Chord Electronics will be at CanJam SoCal, and we haven't confirmed if they're going to have anything new at CanJam SoCal that we haven't previously seen or heard. But even if they don't, one thing I love about Chord Electronics' lineup is that their products seem to have years of lifespan, and that means a lot to a customer who buys their products. And not only do they last a long time within the product line, they are always competitive against any other products in their categories for the entire duration. For example, the Chord Hugo 2 is still my cost no object portable DAC amp reference to this day, and it's been out for years. The Chord Hugo TT2, which is the tabletop counterpart to the Hugo 2, is still one of my reference desktop DAC amps, and I call it one of the best reviewer DAC amps because it can drive just about anything. Now, you can also go for the Chord Dave, which has been out for even longer, and that is their flagship DAC and still one of our highest reference DACs here at HeadFi HQ. And of course, you can upgrade all of them with the Chord M Scaler. So whether or not they have anything new at CanJam SoCal, Chord Electronics exhibit is always worth stopping at.
Tube heads, listen up, because we have some big news from SoCal native Amps and Sound. They'll be debuting their new flagship headphone amplifier at CanJam SoCal this year, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. The Amps and Sound Red October XL will be on hand at their exhibit for you to audition, and this thing looks like an absolute beast. The XL's core is based around the design of the original Red October, but with all new transformers. They'll also be showing off their most powerful amplifier ever, the Bounty, which is designed to drive all of your power-hungry planers. You'll find Amps and Sound amplifiers at their own exhibit, and many others, including Abyss headphones, Audeze, Dan Clark Audio, and the Source AV, so be sure not to miss them. CanJam SoCal will have many more DACs, amps, DAPs, and other electronics that we didn't have time to include in this video, so here are a few more that you certainly won't want to miss. You'll be able to find sources from Ferrum at the Vanna exhibit, including their massively popular Ore and Hypsos models. These two have been praised time and time again on the forums, so stop by the Vanna exhibit and discover why. TIAC will be exhibiting, and while I don't know what they'll be showing, I'm hoping I'll get a chance to audition their flagship UD701N desktop DAC, network player, and headphone amplifier. On paper, it checks a lot of boxes for me, so hopefully I'll get some hands-on time with it. Project will also be joining us, and the Project exhibit is always an excellent stop for anyone searching for compact DACs and amplifiers. Since I'm someone who is constantly struggling to fit everything on my small desk at home, the Prebox S2 Digital definitely has my curiosity. Now, Audma is a name that's completely new to me, but may be familiar to many of you. They'll be showcasing their Elisa and Maestro HPA-1 headphone amplifiers at CanJam SoCal. If you're like me and have no experience with their line, then CanJam Weekend is the perfect time for a first look. Sonic Standards is another name that's new to me, and at CanJam SoCal, they'll be showing their custom DSP designed specifically to tune a variety of headphones to their proprietary target reference response. Bring all of your processing questions to their exhibit to learn more. Now, if high-end tube amplifiers are your thing, then you won't want to miss Upscale Audio's exhibit. They always have an incredible selection of gear from Felix Audio, Pathos Acoustics, and Prima Luna at the show, so be sure not to miss Upscale Audio. And lastly, an exhibit which may actually be my first stop from this entire list, Sony will be showing off their Signature Series players at CanJam SoCal. Now, I've been an NW-ZX300 user for years, and I've been itching to spend time with their NW-WM1Z-M2 and NW-WM1A-M2, geez, these names, digital audio players. And if you're lucky, you'll get a chance to hear the TA-ZH-1ES as well.
I am very excited that two companies with a strong focus on audio test and measurement will be exhibiting at this show. What do you think? Hottinger Brüel & Kjær, HBK, will be joining us with their Brüel & Kjær Type 5128 head and torso simulator. The 5128 is the latest standard for human hearing simulation, and to understand the advancements in the 5128 versus older standards, I encourage you to watch a presentation I gave about the 5128 for HBK's Product Physics Conference a few years back. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video and in the accompanying thread on HeadFi. Vince Ray and Mark Sarich from HBK will be on hand, so you'll be able to bring your headphones and earphones to HBK's exhibit for complimentary measurements on the Brüel & Kjær 5128. This applies to both curious enthusiasts as well as manufacturers who are curious about how their products will measure on the 5128. HBK will also be showing their cutting-edge EA Engine electroacoustic software and their innovative Brüel & Kjær 4101B binaural microphones. Ask them for a personal binaural demo, by the way, as it's immersive in a way that's pretty mind-blowing. CrySound will also be at CanJam, showing their acoustic measurement products and solutions. CrySound offers a range of products including measurement microphones, electroacoustic analysis systems, acoustic cameras, and more. Of course, what'll probably be of most interest to us at the CrySound exhibit will be their headphone test fixtures.
Okay, I hope everybody has filled up on snacks and hit the restroom because we're about to dive into in-ears and oh my gosh, we have so much ahead of us. This is going to be absolutely monstrous.
Yes. As if this video isn't long enough already.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is the longest category. All right, so I guess we better start straight away. We'll go with Campfire Audio, a new product launch I'm very excited about, the Campfire Audio Clara.
Yes.
And this is a model that they've developed with musician Alessandro Cortini. I am a big fan of Alessandro's.
Right.
I think they're going to time the launch with Alessandro has a new album coming out, I think.
Oh, nice.
And they're going to try to time that launch. Anyway, you can find out at the show when exactly that is. And if the name Alessandro Cortini sounds familiar to you, it's because you're probably a Nine Inch Nails fan.
Right.
He is a member of Nine Inch Nails. And I am a Nine Inch Nails fan. In fact, I was at I think it was their first tour, the Pretty Hate Machine tour, 3 billion years ago.
Okay.
When I was a kid. I think Meat Beat Manifesto opened for them.
Oh, nice.
St. Andrews Hall, Detroit. Anyway, so big fan of his. I also like the work he did under the name Sonoyo as a singer, as a solo singer. Anyways, so given that I'm a fan of Nine Inch Nails, I'm a fan of Alessandro's solo music, I'm very excited to know what this is going to be like. We don't have it here yet.
No.
So let's talk about what it is like physically, outside and in. Let's start with the outside real quick because there's going to be two different versions, two different shell versions. One is an ongoing run, so that'll be the normal production run, clear blue 3D printed hand lacquered shell with stainless steel matte black PVD lid, MMCX ring, and tip parts. So that's an ongoing model. But, and this one I hope I can get my hands on, there's going to be a limited run of only 50 sets of the Clara in a 3D printed titanium alloy solid monolithic shell.
And that sounds so hot.
Yeah, they both look really cool. Okay, I'm hoping I get my hands on that limited edition one. Now, the outside is a lovely thing to see.
Yeah.
What's inside matters most. 10mm biocellulose dual neomagnet dynamic driver, Knowles dual diaphragm mid-BA, Knowles dual high-frequency tweeter, TAEC resonator on high driver.
Yeah, that's their tuned acoustic expansion chamber, I believe.
See, I look right at you because I knew you'd remember that, and I wouldn't. So thank you for that. Then they have something I don't recognize, tuned mid-acoustic front acoustic bore.
Oh, that one's new to me, too.
That one's new to me. Maybe that's something that they've developed for the Clara.
Might be.
The Clara also, from the specs, looks like it's going to be quite sensitive, which is nice.
Oh, yeah.
So easy to drive, I hope. So, so that looks good. Now, again, we don't have it yet. So I'll be hearing it for the first time with you guys at CanJam SoCal, and I can't wait. Don't miss it at Campfire's exhibit. But I just want to mention, about Alessandro Cortini. He's also a community member.
He is.
So he participates, he discusses this stuff, and he's been to several of our CanJams.
Yeah, all across the world, actually.
Yeah, and he is so hardcore into the gear.
Yeah.
Of course, the music. He's a musician, but the gear. So what he's going to do with Campfire Audio or what he's done, I can't wait to hear. Now, this is another model that will be making its CanJam debut from Campfire Audio at CanJam SoCal. It's the Campfire Audio Astrolith.
Yeah.
Now, this has been on sale for like a couple weeks.
I think so.
So it's brand spanking new still, and it hasn't been at a CanJam before.
Right.
So this will be the first. What is the Campfire Audio Astrolith? So it's a dual planar magnetic IEM, and it uses 2 planar magnetic drivers per side, a 14mm planar magnetic driver and a 6mm one. Now, the 14mm driver handles the lows through mids, and the 6mm one handles the highs.
Right.
The 14mm driver uses something called AAOI, which stands for Additive Acoustic Optical Inclusion Housing. Now, what they say about it is these chambers are carefully engineered to create precisely controlled acoustic volumes and ensure the targeted vision for Astrolith sonic performance. For the 6mm driver, they're using something called PPR, or particle phase resonator. And what they say about that is Campfire's PPR smooths and tempers the 6mm driver while still allowing it to shine and do what it does best, create lightning fast transients, resolution, and top-end detail. Now, I'm going to get to the sound in just a second. I want to talk really quickly about its build.
Yeah.
So it uses a 3D printed acrylic body with a mirror-finished stainless steel faceplate.
And that is a very pretty faceplate.
Actually, I do love the styling of the Astrolith.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the sound. So Campfire Audio showed on their website, I think also on the HeadFi thread about the Astrolith, the frequency response measurement that they made of it.
Yeah.
Looks fine, but I'm going to say this doesn't sound to me like that measurement looks. It sounds better. And I would call it a rich tonality for sure. So it is unquestionably on the richer side. Don't know that I would call it U-shaped, V-shaped. I mean, I could see somebody describing it, ish. But I would just say it's a very rich tonality, smooth sounding overall to some degree. But the thing about it is, it has quite a bit of sparkle. And so I'm guessing that's the 6mm the planar magnetic driver for sure.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, it's an interesting combination because that kind of tonal balance that it has, I would usually associate with something that's smoothed over more.
Mm-hmm.
So to hear that tonal balance coupled with the level of sparkle and detail is actually, it's pretty compelling.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it quite a lot. I think a lot of campfire audio fans and even people not familiar with campfire audio are going to love I almost called it the Clara. I've still got the Clara on my mind. Are they going to love the Astrolith?
Yeah.
So make sure to check this one out. It's still brand new at Campfire Audio's exhibit.
So the one I'm holding here, the Campfire Audio Moon Rover, it shares certain elements with both the Clara and the Astrolith. So like the Astrolith, this is a planar magnetic piece, but this is a single planar magnetic driver. It's a 12mm driver. And like the Clara, it has a titanium housing. Now,
if you can get one of the first 50.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So that titanium housing on this it's flame treated and it's hand treated. It does some really, really cool things to the titanium where it makes it blue and purple. And I love the color combination they've got. I didn't know titanium did that at all.
I didn't either.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Now I want to talk about how it sounds, though.
Yeah.
So this is still, by the way, a new model.
Yeah.
This is still a new model. It's just a recent release, actually. Yeah. And they say the Moon Rover is a beautiful synthesis of campfires past, present, and future.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this in the last preview where we talked about the Moon Rover. I like how they say that because actually when I was listening to it, there are elements of it that remind me of like some of my favorite campfires, like the Andromeda 2020,
right?
The Solaris. It doesn't sound entirely like any of them,
mm-hmm.
but it has elements of it that remind me of those. But the 12mm planar magnetic driver gives it some very unique qualities of its own.
It does.
This is versus something like a trifecta.
Yes.
That when I listened to the trifecta, it didn't remind me of any other campfire piece, right?
Yeah.
It's its own thing. So that much I actually liked about it because it reminded me of some of my favorites. They also say that it features one of Campfire's most neutral analytical sound signatures of their current lineup. And I agree, of the current lineup for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when I hear the word analytical, I'm always, for some reason, maybe it's just me, I associate it with kind of strident or harsh.
Okay.
And that is definitely not strident or harsh.
Yeah.
So I would say it's neutralish, resolving linear type sound signature, but not sharp or strident at all. And I really, really love the sound of the Moon Rover. At the TIMSOC exhibit, they're going to have this model that I really, really dig.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Melodic Artification Alter Ego.
Right.
Now, let's talk about what it is. It's a 9-driver tribrid, each side, 1 dynamic driver, 4 balanced armatures, 4 ESTs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an open back IEM, which is not typical.
Right.
And that open back nature of it, I think, contributes to its imaging because it images quite wide and airy as IEMs go. But fortunately, it's not as like, I was worried it was going to be like really open and everything was going to come through, but it's not like that. It has some isolation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a TC4 titanium shell, and I love titanium. It's titanium all around.
Right.
And I love the design. Remember the Beijing Olympics? I think it was the stadium they had was called like the Bird's Nest.
I think I recall
which
it.
I thought was so beautiful. And this reminds me a lot of the Bird's Nest. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Okay, let's talk about the sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Alter Ego because there's a switch.
Yeah.
Now, I think they might call it like a bass boost switch, but to me it's more like a richness boost.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it, and I love the name Alter Ego, it's so perfect for this because number one, both switch settings are usable.
Yeah.
Like very usable. But they're not, they're so much like each other,
mm-hmm.
yet it's obvious you're using it.
Yeah.
But they're still so much like each other. I'm not sure exactly what is changing, but it makes it more rich. It's, again, more of a richness boost than a bass boost to my ears. Now, in the off mode, it's quite neutral, like a studio monitor.
Yeah.
Those 4 ESTs, a lot of nice treble detail.
Yeah.
But I would say it's not, it's right down the middle of my treble preference.
Mm-hmm.
So this is quite neutral sounding. Bass is rich, mids are clean, but when you put the switch in the on, I guess that would be the on position, the richness on position, then it adds like richness to it. I don't know exactly what it's doing. It's not like transforming it completely.
Sure.
But it is giving it more richness. I use it about equally in both.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe favoring a little bit more the rich side more often.
Yeah.
I think there are going to be a lot of headfires who prefer it on the other side. I think no matter if you get it, I think you're going to use both.
Yeah.
I use both. And that's nice. And you don't feel like, again, it's like the same model, but not.
Yeah.
And it's obvious when you're using it. I don't want to indicate that it's like barely noticeable. It's not barely noticeable. You'll know. Anyway, so here's the one thing I want to say about it. It's premium priced for sure.
Yeah.
But there are flagships obviously a lot more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you're shopping for those a lot more expensive flagships, I would still audition the alter ego at Tim Sock's exhibit, unquestionably.
Okay, now I have a message for all the cable guys that are going to be shopping for new cables at CanJam SoCal because I might be able to save you some money. So Effect Audio is bringing out, right around the time this preview video goes live, I don't know the exact date, but they're going to be launching the Effect Audio Signature Series 2 cables. So a lot of people are familiar with the original Signature Series. Well, the second generation, it features a number of changes, and one of those changes for all the cables is that it incorporates some of the technology from their Code series of cables, which are actually far more expensive than these are. And these are going to be available to try at the show. Now, what we have here are pre-production prototypes. They are not final hardware, but I do want to mention that all of the Signature Series 2 cables are 26 gauge designs, and they are 8-wire design cables. All of them feature Connex connectors, and they all have rhodium-plated brass plugs on the 4.4 millimeter side. Now, Effect Audio says all 3 of these, compared to the original Signature Series, feature sonic improvements across the board. Now, what I have here in my hand is the Aries 2, which is the entry level of the Signature Series. So the original Aries 2 was about $280, I think, US. This is right around $200, or it will be right around $200. So that's a savings of $80 right out of the gate. And this one is a copper with central solid core design. That's what they took from the Code series, that solid core cabling. They also have the Cadmus 2, which is going to be $249, which I believe is about $50 less than the current Cadmus. And that's a silver-plated copper, again, with central solid core design. The third cable in the Signature Series is the Eros S, which is going to be $299. And if I'm not mistaken, that one is the same price, I believe, as the original. And it's a silver central solid core design with 6 multi-sized core bundles. But again, that's all these incorporating elements from the Code series directly into these.
They're so much less expensive, too.
Yeah. So
and I'm
much
just
more.
curious to know. I'm going to actually pull the Code out and compare them on the same IEM.
Yeah, for sure. So they're all launching right around the time this preview video is coming out, and they'll be available to try at CanJam SoCal. So if you're going to be rolling cables at the show, definitely stop by and check these out because, like I said, you might be saving money over what their current offering is.
You know the water cooler gang guys are going to be looking for that one.
Oh, they will. And then there's one more quick thing I want to mention that will be at Effect Audio's exhibit. So Effect Audio is doing a new collaboration in-ear. I can mention this. It's with Lime Ears, and it's called the Incognita. Now, almost all this information that we have is still hush-hush right now, so we can't say a whole lot. But
we can say almost nothing, actually.
Pretty much nothing.
Yeah,
but
okay.
We have been, we can give a little bit of a taste. And I think based on what I've heard, and you might agree with me, I think in the impressions thread after CanJam is over, this is going to receive a lot of love.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
This is one that we both agree on.
Yeah.
And we don't agree on a lot.
Not a whole lot. So definitely stop by Effect Audio's exhibit and check out that Lime Ears Incognita collaboration.
Now, outside of the world of HeadFi, and Brian, there actually is a world outside of HeadFi.
No, there isn't.
Yes, there is, I swear. But outside of the world of HeadFi, I would say the most popular category for headphones is true wireless earphones.
Oh, without a doubt.
And there are a lot of them that we would never listen to music through dedicatedly.
Yeah, I like my AirPods, but they're not music devices.
Yeah, I mean, I use them for podcasts, phone calls, things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there are true wireless earphones that are more musical, more audiophile friendly. Several of those will be at CanJam SoCal. We want to tell you about a few of them.
Yeah, I want to start with the Creative Labs Orvada Ace. Technically the Ace 2. They have 2 models, the Ace and the Ace 2. These are the first true wireless headphone models that I saw with XMEMS drivers inside. And I got to say, that's a fantastic thing because the XMEMS drivers, they do some really cool things that you kind of have to audition for yourself. You got to hear it. But they're very fast. They're very resolving drivers. And this is a hybrid, so it has a dynamic driver in there as well. If you're stopping by their exhibit to check it out, just try the Ace 2. It's like a $20 difference. And this one comes with aptX lossless. So absolutely worth checking out at Creative's exhibit.
Now, when it comes to all of the true wireless earphones I've heard, I still have a high standard for resolving ability. The most hi-fi of them all is this one. This is the Hi-Fi Man Svanar Wireless. If you have an Android phone, you can actually get that last bit of resolution from it because it does have LDAC.
Yeah.
So if you can use it in LDAC, you'll get that last bit of resolution from it. But even in AAC mode, like with my iPhone, it's still exceptional. So of all the true wireless I've heard, I'd say this is the most hi-fi, the most resolving, unquestionably, and it stands to this day.
And speaking of resolving true wireless IEMs, this is the final ZE8000. Now, this is the original. There is a ZE8000 Mark II available now, but the ZE8000 family has what Final calls their 8K sound, which means you're going to be getting resolving details, very clear, very textured up high. And this is one of the ones to check out if that is exactly what you're seeking.
Yeah, I definitely want to check out the Mark II. You know, of all the, I'd say of all the ones that we have here on the table, I would say this is the classiest looking of the bunch.
Oh, absolutely classiest. No doubt.
So this is the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 4. Now, of all the audiophile class true wireless earphones, this is one of the two models I listen to the most. The other one being the Hi-Fi Man Svanar Wireless. Now, the Svanar Wireless is what it is. You cannot alter the sound signature.
Right.
There's no app for it or anything like that. With this, you have that. So whereas the Svanar Wireless, I would say, is in absolute terms more resolving, this gives you more flexibility because you can use the app to EQ it, tune it. It's actually really lovely that way. It also has a more like kind of consumer-friendly form factor, if you will.
Yeah, it does.
It's if you're used to some of the more consumer market ones, this will be immediately familiar to you. Maybe more effective noise canceling as well.
Right.
So if you kind of value that sort of a combination, the Momentum True Wireless 4 is really my first recommendation. If you want, again, absolute resolution, Svanar Wireless.
And now the last one I want to mention is what I think represents the best overall value per your dollar here in the True Wireless section. This is the Moondrop Space Travel. Now, this is actually my pair. I had to pick it up at CanJam London earlier this year. So the Moondrop Space Travel is a 13mm dynamic dome diaphragm true wireless model. It comes with Bluetooth 5.3, active noise cancellation, but it has 3 tunable voice signatures, and they're all usable. The first is monitor, the second is reference, and the third is bass head. I use 2 of the 3. I'll let you guess, which of the 2 that I use.
You don't use bass head.
But they all sound excellent, and it's $25. You have to check it out. It's going to be at the Lay-In Audio exhibit.
Jomo Audio will be coming all the way from Singapore to join us at CanJam SoCal.
Yeah.
I love when they join us at our CanJams. They're a cool team. Yeah. So they're going to be showing this. This is their latest model. This is the Jomo Audio Nautilus. I think this just came out.
I believe so, yeah.
So this, I don't often start with how something looks. This is one of those ones I can't help but do that.
Yeah.
I think it's gorgeous.
It is.
So if you're not into flash at all, if everything you own is like matte finished,
yeah,
you're probably going to find these too flashy. I don't usually go for flash, but I love these. So let's talk. I want to talk about the shell real quick.
Yeah.
So it's a CNC gold-plated brass shell. And then there are natural mother of pearl inlays, which are stunning.
And they're beautiful. Yep.
Yeah, they're real mother of pearl. And I'm going to read a quote. The Nautilus draws its design inspiration from the steampunk aesthetic, heavily influenced by the illustrations in the novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, it feels like they ripped it straight out of the book.
It does look like something that would come right up from that novel. Yeah, okay. So let's talk about what's inside. I should have started with that because that's the most important thing. But okay, so it's a 4-driver tribrid design.
Yep.
There's a 6mm planar magnetic driver for the highs, a 10mm dynamic that's full range.
Right.
Interestingly, they are in a coaxial configuration. That is, the planar driver is positioned in front of the dynamic driver with a front-firing soundboard connected via a 3D printed waveguide.
And I think that's a really cool design.
Yeah, have you seen a blown-up version of this?
No, I've not seen the exploded diagram version.
That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Exploded view.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Blown-up version?
Okay, sorry. All right. So I haven't seen an exploded view, and you haven't either?
No.
Okay, all right. I would like to, though.
Yeah.
All right, anyways. So sound signature. I've seen... Oh, did I mention it has 2 Sony and bone conduction drivers for the mid-range? I left that out.
Yeah.
So it has 2 Sony and bone conduction drivers in the mid-range.
Yeah.
So I want to say that. So I've heard now there's an increasing number of models that are seeming to use that configuration.
Yeah.
Sony and bone conduction for mid-range. And several of the models I've heard sound excellent. Like there are things about, I feel like that's adding something to it that's hard to put my finger on. This is one of those models. He's done a beautiful job with these.
Yeah.
Jomo. I would call it a U-shaped sound signature.
Yeah.
So there's bass prominence. Probably maybe more than normally you'd listen to.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's a rich tonality, but there's some sparkle. That part you probably like.
I do. And I think overall the sound signature is going to click with a lot of guys at CanJam SoCal.
Yes, I agree completely. So yeah, I love the way they look, but I also love the way they sound. And I also thought from the way it looks and the way it sounded, because I didn't know the retail price, that it was going to be a lot more expensive than it actually is.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised to find out it's actually reasonably priced.
Right. This is the Canera Imperial Loki. We've talked about it in a number of CanJam preview videos, but I do want to talk about it again real quick because it's a very popular piece for a very good reason.
Yeah, I think it's still Canera's flagship.
I think it is still their flagship. So the Imperial Loki is a 12-driver quadbrid design with 6 Knowles balanced armatures, 4 Sonian ESTs, 1 dynamic driver, and 1 bone conduction driver. It's a beautiful in-ear. It's
It is.
very well appointed, so it comes with an Effect Audio cable. It's a UPOCC pure copper cable from Effect Audio with a 4.4 millimeter rhodium plated plug, and crazy number of ear tips in this thing.
Yeah.
And the build quality is artisanal because I don't know if people know this, but these are hand painted. So the work that goes into these to make them as beautiful as they are, I mean, it really shows when you have them in your hand and you're looking at them.
Yes, there's a lot of human attention while they're building and finishing that. I did want to really quickly mention, you said it comes with 4 different kinds of ear tips.
Yeah.
But it's not even just 4 kinds. It's like 4 aftermarket brands.
That's true.
That are highly, highly regarded.
Yeah.
So just opening up the case makes me feel like I was shopping in Tokyo. When I go to Tokyo, I come back with a bunch of different ear tips.
Yeah.
And it comes with the Astell Sedna EarFit Crystal, Final Type E, SpinFit CP145, Symbio F Foam. These are the kinds of things I buy when I'm in Tokyo specifically, and they come with that.
Yeah, and the sound signature is very, very nice on this. Anybody who's looking for kind of a richer but still resolving and very revealing sound signature, this is one to check out.
No, I like the Imperial Loki.
Mhm.
I enjoy its sound signature, but I'm going to say, independent of price, I actually prefer the much more affordable Canera Imperial Verdandi.
And I think I'm with you on that.
Yes, this is more neutral
Yeah.
to my ears. In fact, I'm thinking of their lineup and the ones I've heard, and I think this might be their most neutral piece.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a lovely sounding IEM.
Yeah.
Images beautifully. All right, let's talk about what it has inside. It's a 6-driver quad brid, 2 Knowles BAs, 2 Sonian ESTs, 1 dynamic driver, 1 bone conduction driver. I want to talk real quick about that bone conduction driver.
Yeah.
I think it's one of their custom bone conduction drivers. And when you pick up the Imperial Verdandi, it is also beautifully built.
Yeah.
That's unmistakable when you see it and feel it. But if you flick it a certain way, it will resonate almost as if the IEM feels hollow.
Yeah.
It is not.
Yeah, and that's true in the Loki as well.
Yes, it's that bone conduction driver. It's one of the characteristics of their bone conduction drivers, so now you know. It's definitely not hollow. This also comes with 4 different sets of ear tips. Astell Sedna EarFit Crystal, Final Type E, Canera KO7, 1 pair of foam, but non-Symbio foam. So nice ear tips as well. Not quite as fancy as the all-aftermarket fancy ear tips of the Imperial Loki, but still very nicely equipped. But again, the sound. To me, this is probably one of my favorites at the price. So the Imperial Verdandi, I think a lot of people are going to prefer the Loki, but I think a lot of people are going to prefer the Verdandi. I'm curious to see where you fall. Listen to both for sure and the rest of their lineup at Canera's exhibit.
All right, this is going to be kind of a weird one because I've never tried doing this with an in-ear before.
Noise isolating ones too.
What? So this is the Canera Grammar Pro, and as anybody can probably see looking at the video, this is a boom microphone for IEMs. It comes in a 2-pin or an MMCX connection option. I'm currently wearing it on the 2-pin with the Canera Imperial Loki, and it has a dual condenser noise canceling boom microphone. That's actually important because when you hear the term condenser for microphones, you often think, oh, a lot of detail retrieval, but they often tend to pick up more ambient sound as well. Well, because of the dual condenser diaphragm, it actually rejects some outside noise, which makes it a lot more manageable for anybody listening to you on the other end.
Right.
They're primarily focusing gaming, live streaming, and VoIP use with this. So it has a 2-core design inside the cable. It's silver-plated single crystal copper conductor, and it comes in a set length of 1.5 meters or 5 feet. There are interchangeable plugs because if you want to use this as a standard headphone cable, the microphone is detachable. So it comes with 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter terminations. And then the hardware is all aluminum alloy. It's very nicely built. And then all this for only $80. I got to say, it's a fantastic option. If you're looking at something that's going to be mobile ready, something with your in-ears, something you can just toss in a bag and go, it's a great way of looking at it. Just grab this, toss in a bag, go game.
I'm on Zoom calls all the time, so I'm going to try that with the Verdandi. I'm dying to try that with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of people in the Head-Fi community are probably already familiar with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Came out at CanJam Singapore. That's when they let people start hearing it.
Right.
Earlier this year. This is the Mezza Audio Alba. And as we had guessed in previous segments, they weren't able to make them fast enough. Hopefully they're catching up to their orders now.
Yeah.
Because it's $160. And it comes bundled with a small little USB-C dongle DAC, which I can't believe they also throw in with it for $160.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what it is. It's a single 10.8 millimeter dynamic driver per side. The construction's nice, premium zinc alloy, anodized aluminum parts, and a lovely pearl color. I think everything Mezza makes is pretty gorgeous to look at. 30-tone impedance. Comes with a 3.5 millimeter unbalanced cable, but you can buy an optional 4.4 millimeter terminated balanced cable.
Yep.
But since they changed, I should mention they changed to 2-pin connector on this, which I think a lot of IEM enthusiasts are going to dig. Because now you can cable swap if you've got a bunch of 2-pin cables, which I think a lot of our community members do.
Probably do.
Why is it so popular? Well, as we talked about before, I would say it has a studio monitor type neutrality to it. And I think a lot of headfires are looking for that.
They are.
And it's not dry by any stretch of the imagination, but it is, I would say, a more perceived flat presentation. Not measured flat, a perceived flat presentation. So we threw it on our bench. We ran it through Head Acoustics multidimensional audio quality score, and it killed.
Right.
In timbre, which includes, among other things, frequency response, it scored 4.9 out of 5 overall score. So mean opinion score overall, 4.9 out of 5. And it's $160.
Yeah.
Threw it on the standard measurements that we usually do, like where we capture distortion, for example, and we'll show it, like the distortion plot, exceedingly low distortion. And it's just a really clean distortion graph to look at. So for 160, I think they've really shaken up their lineup. I think they've shaken up what we would consider entry level, and I don't consider it entry level. In fact, when I first heard it, I was guessing it was maybe their new flagship.
Right.
So it's that good. Mezza Audio's Exhibit, the Alba is a can't miss. I just noticed you changed the tips on me.
Yeah, I did.
You've been playing around with different tips. So this is the FIO FH19.
Right.
But I want to start with the one you're holding. So actually, let's start with that one first. That's the FIO FA19.
Yeah, so this is the FIO FA19. It's the flagship in their all BA line. So inside of this, you're going to find 10 balanced armature drivers. One of those is a custom bass boost driver designed by Knowles. And then it also has audiophile grade thin film crossover capacitor network. And all of that combines together to make such a beautiful, wonderful signature. And I should actually say 2 signatures. There's a toggle on this that allows it to go between what FIO calls hi-fi and monitor mode. Now, here in the office, it's always in monitor mode for me. I listen to hi-fi mode now and then just to check it out again. It's like, yeah, I'm going back to monitor. I know you spend most of your time in the hi-fi mode when you have it.
I do. So I listen to both, but definitely more in the so-called hi-fi mode, which has a slight bass lift relative to monitor mode.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I would say that the monitor mode is definitely more perceived flat.
It is.
But anyway, I like it with a little bit of lift. I love that it has 2 usable signatures.
Right.
Anyway, let me say this about kind of where the FA19 sits with me and what FIO's done with it. So if you look at FIO's IEMs over the last several years, relative to my tastes, it's kind of been like this kind of a thing, right? Some of them I've liked more than others, right? But it's trended up.
Yeah.
And then the FA19 comes out, and that's when I feel like they're like, bop, they're like up here.
Yeah.
And now I think I don't care what price point you're shopping in. So if your budget's $5,000 for an IEM, you still need to listen to the FA19. I'm not saying it's going to come out at the top of your list. It might.
Right.
But you at least need to hear them. I don't know that. I'm just trying to think through their model history. I think that's the first model that they made that I would say that about.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so no matter what price you're shopping in, you have to hear the FA19. 2 usable signatures, like everything else they make for the price you pay. The components in it are going to be top-notch.
Right.
And then how it's packaged is going to be top-notch for what you pay.
Yep.
I should also mention it comes with an 8-strand, 224-wire pure silver cable.
Oh, that's right.
Just like what I was saying. So now we get to the FIO FH19, which I can see you've been swapping these ear tips on me.
Yep.
So this H stands for hybrid. So this is FIO's flagship hybrid IEM.
Right.
The FH19 is effectively a successor to their FH9. I think the FH19 is a significantly better IEM. I think most people are going to agree when they hear it.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, they load it full of high-quality stuff. Let's start with the drivers. Push-pull dual dynamic drivers and 6 custom Knowles BA drivers per side. Levitated voice coil. Meant to ask them what that means. I forgot to do that at the last CanJam. I will try to remember to do it this time. And Rubicon audiophile grade film capacitor crossover. Again, for whatever price you pay, they try to put the best stuff possible in their gear. I will say how it sounds is different than the FA19. I actually think for some who want a little more richness, even let's say you put it in hi-fi mode with the FA19 and you say, I want a little more richness, then try the FH19.
Yeah, it's for those who want the benefits of a dynamic and balanced armature all in one unit as opposed to full balance or full dynamic.
I agree. And here are my sound signature notes from my listening notes. Smooth and refined with a little sparkle. Bass is rich, not thick. One of those non-fatiguing yet resolving sound signatures. Very nice imaging, too. Would you agree?
I do.
All right. So the chassis is really cool. They said that they designed it to be more masculine.
Yeah, they did use that term.
They did use that term.
Mm-hmm.
It's made of pure titanium plus 7 series aerospace aluminum composite metal housing is how they describe it.
And I love the machine look that it has.
I do too, actually. I would say masculine is not an unfair term. It is a kind of brawny looking
Kind of is,
chassis, and I dig it. So actually, it's a gorgeous looking chassis. But whereas I prefer the sound for my tastes of the FA19, I would say I prefer the looks of the FH19.
I agree.
Yeah, either way, you're looking at 2 fantastic new flagships from FIO. So the IEMs I'm holding now are probably among the most hyped IEMs I've seen in a while.
Right.
So hyped, I guess I should say what they are. You all have heard of them because they are super hyped up right now. The High Senior Mega 5 EST.
Yeah.
And so we're like, I wonder if it's as good. We were kind of skeptical.
Exactly.
So we got them in to Head-Fi HQ, listened to them, and we were like, okay, we get the hype. We get the hype. So these are excellent. They're $549.
Right.
From a tonal balance standpoint, I would describe them as within my range of neutrality on the rich side of my range bass-wise.
Yes. I actually have a couple notes here.
Okay.
I actually flat out say it's a bit two-bodied in the low end for my liking, but it is an IEM that I think is going to appeal to many people.
Because most people like more bass than Brian does.
That's very true.
Right. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But even for my tastes, I would say, again, it's within my range, bass-wise, but on the higher side of it. That said, on the bass, very textured and detailed.
Yeah.
More than I expected at this price for sure.
Exactly.
I guess we should talk about the driver complement. So it's a 5-driver tri-brid design, 1 10mm dynamic to handle the lows.
Yeah.
Excellent job it does.
It does.
2 BAs for mid-highs, and the mids are super clean.
Yeah. Vocals, I think, are fantastic in the mid-range. They come through very nicely.
Yes, and you have that in your notes. Vocal presence is excellent. We agree on that one. 2 Sonian ESTs for the highs, well implemented.
Yeah.
So sparkly highs, detailed highs, and together, the way they kind of just got it all together.
It meshes.
It meshes beautifully.
Yeah.
So I would say I get the hype completely.
Yeah.
It's tuned to the Harman target you have in the notes.
Yeah.
That I did not know. Is it specifically tuned to Harman IEM?
They were going after the Harman target, very specifically the in-ear target.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds Harmonish for sure. And it's well packaged, by the way.
Yeah.
So it comes with this White Whale premium cable.
Yep.
It's a nice cable from what I can tell. 2-strand, 24 gauge, UPOCC, silver plated. That's ultra pure
Ono continuous cast.
Ono continuous cast.
Yeah.
4.4mm termination. Comes with a Pelican protective case. It's actually a very nice case. I actually like the little handle on it too. 8 pairs of ear tips, 6 silicone, 2 foam. Okay, so we concluded that the hype is deserved in this case. It's totally deserved.
Yeah.
So here's what I will say. It's at headphones.com's exhibit. And I think of the mid, and it's not even mid-price. I would call this in the IEM realm and on Head-Fi kind of on the more affordable, mid-affordable side.
Yeah.
And of the devices all around Head-Fi that are this price, I think it will probably have the longest lines to listen to it because of the hype. And okay, it's deserved.
So we're holding here a couple of new pairs of in-ears from Dunu. I'm holding the latest in their studio series. This is the SA6 EST, and I'm very excited that there's a new studio series in-ear from Dunu. This is an 8-driver design. It has 6 balanced armature drivers and 2 EST drivers. It has custom Nebula faceplates, and it does come with Dunu's Hulk Pro MIDI cabling system, which has that Q-Lock Plus interchangeable plug on it, which makes, it's very nice to swap around between different sources.
It is, without having to swap cables.
Exactly. I like the sound of this quite a bit.
I know you do.
It is a very nice piece. So there's a bass presence to it, but it's very well maintained.
Yes.
Detail is very clear.
Yeah,
I love the resolution on
given
this.
the bass presence that it has, that you still like it.
Yeah.
Because Brian doesn't typically like bass emphasis. Not generally, but you really enjoyed these from the start because you heard them before I did, and you were like, "Hey, dude, you got to listen to these."
These are very nice pieces. So absolutely worth checking out. And then you have Dunu's latest, which is the DK3001 BD. Fun little fact about that: I just recently learned BD stands for Brain Dance. So shout out to any of you fellow cyberpunk players out there.
Nerd.
Yeah, I am a nerd.
We both love the way this looks, though.
Oh, the styling is lovely.
I think it's gonna be polarizing. But like right away when I saw them, I'm like,
it's hot.
Yeah,
yeah.
I love the way it looks. So the BK3001 BD is a 9-driver tri-brid, single dynamic, 4 balanced armature, 4 planar magnetic drivers. Yeah. These are my listening notes. Treble sounds forward to me at the upper end of my personal preference range for treble, sparkly, incisive. Not to be mistaken for harsh. I really enjoy the treble detail with the DK3 without 3001 BD. It adds nice texture to the signature. Bass is strong but taut, mid-range being spared any of the bass's boost.
Yep.
Imaging, I just wrote down nice separation.
Yeah.
The DK3001 BD sounds as fun as it looks.
That
was actually my in my listening notes. Kind of a cheesy line, but it's true.
It's very true.
Yeah, but it's true. So these two models we're both quite excited about.
Yeah.
I actually really like the way, I actually had a couple of listening notes for that one.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, I said the bass hits but isn't bloated to me. This is on the SA6 EST.
Okay.
So the bass hits but isn't bloated to me. Lively forward sounding, treble sparkle.
Yeah.
Yeah, things
Which
that you
I
all
like.
love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has an airy presentation. I can see why Brian enjoyed these so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are can't miss it, Duno. Lee Kwan Min from Elysian Acoustic Labs is, to me, one of the wizards of IEMs out there.
Yeah.
I love, for example, the Annihilator and the Diva. Well-known models. We're going to get to those in a minute. Anyway, at CanJam Shanghai or Singapore, can't remember which one, I lose track, he asked me to listen to a prototype. And I listened to it, and he said, what do you think? I said, it reminds me of the Annihilator.
Yeah.
And he started laughing. He goes, spot on. You know, it's essentially Annihilator Junior.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Elysian Acoustic Labs Apostle, and it will be making its first showing at CanJam SoCal.
Right.
I'm not even supposed to show it. There's almost nothing I can say about it. I can say kind of what it sounds like. I can tell you it's a tribrid. I cannot say the price. I can say that it's going to be available sometime around December. I'm not supposed to show it to you, but it is in my hand. Anyways, the prototype chassis is not going to look anything like that. So I showed it a little bit. Anyway, here's what I said about the sound. Treble has great presence, sparkle, and detail. Very articulate treble, but the treble is thankfully not bright to me.
Mm-hmm.
Bass is forceful and detailed. Mids are clean and resolving. Any Annihilator fans going, it sounds like he's describing the Annihilator a little bit. While it's certainly not identical to the Annihilator, I can say with high confidence, if you're an Annihilator fan, you'll be an Apostle fan too. Go to Elysian Acoustic Labs exhibit, or it might also be at
Effect Audio.
Effect Audio's exhibit. They're right next to each other.
Yeah.
And do not miss the Apostle from Elysian Acoustic Labs.
So now we're holding the Elysian Acoustic Labs Pilgrim and the Pilgrim Noir. They came out earlier this year, and I have to say, between the two, I have a clear preference for the Pilgrim, the OG Pilgrim, but it's not that much older than the Noir, really.
They came out pretty close to each other.
Yeah, pretty close. So I have it currently paired with the Effect Audio Code 24C cable, and I do like this pairing quite a bit.
Yeah, it doesn't come with that cable.
No.
You went a bit fancy, but
Yes,
you
I
do
did.
like that pairing.
Yeah.
And this is the Pilgrim Noir. Okay, let's talk about what they are. So this came out a little bit after.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more expensive. It's more expensive. But anyways, here's what they are. The Pilgrim is a one dynamic driver, 3BA, three-way crossover setup design. And the goal for the Pilgrim, and even the Noir, I would say, is to open the door for people who love Elysian tuning but couldn't buy Diva and Annihilator because of price.
Right.
And that one is quite affordable.
It is.
So the Pilgrim Noir is also a 1DD plus 3BA design, but with a four-way crossover versus three-way. And I believe they made a change to one of the drivers in here as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, the goal was to make it a little bit more full-bodied sounding, smoother sounding, or richer sounding, and I think it does that.
Right.
I prefer this one, and I would say that the tuning, even though it's a bit smoother, a bit richer because of the smoothness, is still, to me, a little bit more resolving than the original Pilgrim.
Yeah.
But tonally, you prefer that one. And so these are, to me, given the prices, especially for that one, the original Pilgrim, can't miss. And they are also, I think this is the first time they're making CanJam SoCal.
Yeah,
I think they came out after last year's CanJam SoCal.
Yeah.
So at the Elysian exhibit, if you're looking for affordable Elysian or more affordable Elysian, these are it, the Pilgrim and Pilgrim Noir. Now, I mentioned just a couple minutes ago that Elysian makes a couple of my reference IEMs.
Right.
We're holding them. That is the Annihilator 2023. This is the Diva 2023. These are well-known models in our community.
Yeah.
But just in case you haven't heard them yet, don't miss them just because they're not new. So the Annihilator 2023 is still the flagship of the line. And that is a 7-driver tribrid configuration, 1 dynamic driver, 4 balanced armatures, and 2 electrostatic drivers. What Lee does to get the treble out of those ESTs is incredible.
Yeah.
They're not easy to tune. They're not BAs. So to get them to, match up, timbre, and everything else, they're also not the same sensitivity as the other drivers.
Right.
So what he got out of those is magic. Some of the best treble I've heard from any IEMs, period, in terms of articulation, resolution, fantastic. And for something that is that rich sounding, because it has really impactful bass,
Yeah.
for something that rich sounding to be more characterized by its treble detail and articulation is not common.
No.
So that's a canvas. Very exciting sounding IEM. Now, this is the Diva 2023. I actually carry this one more often than the Annihilator 2023 because to me, this is just one of those right down the middle IEMs.
Yeah.
So in some ways, of course, it's not as exciting as the Annihilator. The treble is very resolving, but not as resolving as that. I should mention it's a 6BA design, all BA design. So all balanced armatures with a tunable bass switch. And what I love about this one is in its default signature, it's kind of right down the middle for me.
Yeah.
And so it's just enjoyable to listen to, period. And then you can tune it to your mood. And they're all usable signatures. The Diva, for me, is an incredible IEM to this day. And one of my references, and one of the IEMs, if not the one I carry the most in the rotation.
Yeah.
So they may not be new, brand spanking new, but they're still incredible IEMs. So at Elysian's exhibit, don't miss them just because they're not new. I would venture to guess every single person watching this knows who Critical is.
I've heard the name.
So Critical is I would say he's the most popular reviewer in our community of the last several years.
That's probably safe to say.
But now he seems to be focusing more on collaborations.
Yeah.
And this one is an extremely noteworthy one, and it will be at CanJam SoCal. This is the Kiwi Ears Critical Singolo. And this one is $79. So here's the sentence, one sentence summary. If you've got $79, which is impulse money in our community, buy it. Okay, so at the very least, audition it at Lynn Soul's exhibit at CanJam SoCal. So what is it? Single driver per side. It uses an 11-millimeter dynamic driver. It's a Japanese liquid crystal polymer driver, LCP diaphragm. But I think most key, like where he spent a lot of time with Kiwi Ears tuning this was with this thing they call CARS, Kiwi Acoustic Resonance System. Uses a Helmholtz resonator to regulate its tuning as opposed to a resistor-capacitor network. It's a labyrinthine tubing network, which you can actually see from the outside, a discrete bandpass filter that manipulates airflow to the driver, regulating low-frequency output. I think it's tuned to his IEF neutral signature.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think so. And so it says, tuned to Critical's tonal signature, the Singolo boasts an 8 dB sub-bass shell for powerful yet pristine bass, complemented by a neutral mid-range and clean treble. And I would say that is fair. I would say it's perceived flat. When they talk about that 8 dB sub-bass shelf, I was expecting it to sound a little bassier.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's actually not bassy. But I guess I should have thought about where that was probably emphasized. Probably down low where it's maybe more felt, the presence. It's more about presence than how it actually sounds.
Right.
I would say it sounds more perceived flat. I was actually very surprised. I think a lot of people are going to love this signature for $79. So to me, go to Lynn Soul's exhibit. Again, that's impulse money in our community. Andrew from Music Tech sent us a package of gear for this CanJam SoCal preview. The retail value of all of it being kind of insane.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it was 5 sets of IEMs and a cable. So the cable, the retail value of the cable, I think, is worth more than both of our cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe worth more than my retirement account. I'm
Man.
teasing. All right. I want to start with the one that was actually, I think, the most affordable thing in there.
Yeah.
And it's not inexpensive. It's $1,799. It's the Unique Melody Maven 2 Crescent.
Right.
And this one, I mean, honestly, when I first saw it, because I didn't know the retail price of it, based on the chassis design, which I find beautiful, it's kind of simple and elegant. It's titanium. You and I are partial to titanium.
Yep.
I wouldn't have guessed that it was the most affordable in the bunch just from the shell. But anyways, here's what it is. 10-driver tribrid, 2 dynamics for lows, 2 balanced armature for mid-highs, 2 balanced armature for highs, 4 electrostatics for ultra-highs. Now, given the expensive company it was sent with, again, I think it's the best value in the bunch.
Right.
Now, here are my listening notes. Well within my range of neutrality, with tasteful bass emphasis, and just clean throughout. I was just thinking, if a non-headfire, someone completely not in the hobby, right, just was watching this, the adjectives we use, that would be, they'd be like, what does that mean, clean throughout? Anyways, so just, you guys know what it means. So it sounds clean throughout. The treble just touches the upper part of my preference range, but doesn't cross it. Articulate and clean. There goes clean again.
Yeah.
And an exclamation point. It says, I really enjoy these. So those are my listening notes. And I do. So these are, I think, the best value in the bunch. Unique Melody, this is actually pretty value priced relative to even some other Unique Melody pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, they have some that can really get up there.
Yeah, and I haven't listened to most of the models in their current lineup. This makes me want to listen to all of them now.
Yeah.
So this Unique Melody Maven 2 at the Music Tech exhibit, I think is one of the best value products, at least of the ones he sent us. So the next model I want to talk about, I wasn't familiar with Alpha and Omega, the company, were you?
No, this is the first time I've heard of them.
And this model is called the Omega, so it's the Alpha and Omega.
Yes, it is.
So this is a 9-driver tribrid, 1 dynamic driver, 4 Sonian balanced armatures, 4 Sonian ESTs. with a 6-way passive crossover.
Mm-hmm.
They use something called dynamic enhancement housing, designed for the dynamic drivers, increases dynamic and sub-bass rumbling.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. ECC electrostatic crossfeed channels, split-way crossfeed acoustic housing for quad electrostatic drivers, smoothing out the shouty and harshness of treble while retaining the airiness and smoothness of treble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I'll get to the treble in a second. 3-way switch system, 7 total modes, sub-bass response enhancement, vocal enhancement, treble extension.
Don't need the sub-bass enhancement.
I would not use the sub-bass because I'm guessing that when I switch that up, it would go up. So I want to just be clear. We didn't really play with the switches at all.
Yeah.
Because given the length of this video, we just didn't have time to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But now I want to talk about the sound signature. So this is an IEM for people. Okay, if you like the trifecta from Campfire Audio, listen to the Alpha and Omega Omega.
Yep.
If you like the Fat Freak
Yeah.
family of IEMs, which so many people do,
Mm-hmm.
this is one to audition. Big sounding IEM, the bass being almost physical and tactile.
Yeah.
Yet the way they're tuned, I'm guessing there's a pretty steep slope down because I'm not hearing any of that. I'm not hearing any bloat in the mids whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm not hearing any bloat in the mids. I would have noted that if I did. And, actually, I just looked at my notes and it says, despite the bigness of the bass, the mids seem unaffected by it. Ta-da. So as for treble, they earlier mentioned that they try to smooth that EST treble.
Yes.
And this is one of those EST-equipped IEMs that I feel the treble is smoother with. So, again, we didn't play with the switches. That might change it.
Right.
I would expect it would. The mid switch, the treble switch, the bass switch. But for those who prefer more prominent bass at Music Tech's exhibit, don't miss the Alpha and Omega Omega.
Now, another name we hadn't heard before the package arrived was Beat Audio. This is the Beat Audio Valhalla, and the Valhalla actually is celebrating 15 years of Beat Audio. It's an anniversary edition cable. So inside the Valhalla, it is an 8-wire design, and it's made with graphene, silver, copper, zinc, and bismuth, which is a very novel combination of materials to me.
I have never seen that combination of materials before.
Yeah, I've not heard of anything like that. The hardware, though, is gorgeous. They say that the hardware's metallic parts are hand-carved with floral designs from the Tang Dynasty. And I got to say, it's a beautiful cable. So
Gorgeous.
The hardware is stunning. I love the color they chose for it. All around, beautiful. And it's going to match, I think, a lot of different IEMs because of the way that they've chosen their colors. So if you are a collector and you love to have very limited edition, very rare items, I believe only 100 of these are being made worldwide. So definitely stop by Music Tech's exhibit. We can probably think of a few people that are going to be stopping by and checking this out.
Yeah, the
for
water
sure.
cooler guys. I wish, we've spent more time listening to these IEMs than we did getting to play with that cable.
Right.
So like the water cooler guys, so I'm sure we'll go to Music Tech to check out that cable. I will also be doing the same because I'd like to try it with some of my IEMs. Aureolus is a brand that I became familiar with for the very first time a zillion years ago. I think when I first went to the Tokyo Headphone Festival, the Fujiya Avik.
Yeah, I first heard my first Aureolus in Japan too.
Because it is a Japanese make.
Yeah.
So this is the Aureolus Traily Tie. Happens to be the most expensive thing on this table here.
Yep.
That Music Tech sent. $8,499.
Yeah.
This is a cost no object kind of IEM. All right,
Yes,
here's what it is. 12 driver hybrid, 4 electrostatics for the highs, 6 balanced armatures for the mids, 2 balanced armatures for the low, 3-way frequency division for a balanced and coherent sound, 4 sound tubes for improved soundstage and imaging, titanium alloy housing. Actually, I was going to say something about we do love titanium.
Yeah.
We've said that a lot. But at the price, it's a shockingly simple, straightforward design.
It's understated, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, super understated.
Mhm.
Yeah. Limited to 199 worldwide.
Yeah.
So here are my listening notes. Extended bass, focus more on clean bass detail than on emphasis.
Mm-hmm.
Rich mids, forward vocals. The treble seems more about being organic than sparkly. Overall tuning is neutral smooth.
Yep.
Imaging is airy, but to my ears, less about being big than being solid and precise.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoy these. Now, they are the most expensive ones in the bunch, but even though they're not my favorite, actually, of the bunch in absolute terms. I actually have another one that we're going to get to shortly that was the standout for me.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy these.
Now, I know your favorite's coming in a moment here, but I do want to mention that in my apartment, my girlfriend likes to listen to the gear that I'm listening to as well, and out of all the ones here, that was actually her favorite. That's the one she gravitated towards.
I'm not surprised at all. Now, the first time that we listened to a soft ears IEM, I think, was
2018.
Was it for wasn't it for CanJam Shanghai?
It was the very first CanJam Shanghai.
Yeah. So but I haven't listened to anything from them since.
Yeah.
So Andrew sends us, so Music Tech sends us the Soft Ears Enigma.
Mm-hmm.
This is $3,699. It's a 12-driver tribrid, 2 dynamic drivers, 6 balanced armatures, 4 electrostatics. Passive standing wave elimination structure. Artificial sapphire glass, so it has a sapphire crystal.
Which we appreciate.
Over the center of the, I do like sapphire, too. We like that on our watches.
Yep.
Now, here are my listening notes. Bass is rich and prominent with nice texture. Rich mid-range with nice vocal presence. The Soft Ears Enigma is one of the EST-equipped IEMs where it's not as sparkly, but there's air.
Yeah.
Smoother treble. Piano came through with nice tactility and realism. The Enigma did beautifully with piano, which it did. That much I very much remember about it.
Yeah.
Imaging was intimate yet airy on the Enigma. So these are, I really enjoyed these. So again, I'm about to get to my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah.
But I really did enjoy the Enigma. Now we get to what is my favorite of the things that Music Tech sent us.
Yeah.
And it's the Aroma Audiophile one. It's $4,688, and here's what it is. It's a 12-driver hybrid, 4-way crossover, 10 balanced armatures, 2 9.2 millimeter dynamic drivers. Kind of an old school driver complement.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. It's incredible, though. Coaxial strong magnetic phase paired double dynamic drivers technology, reversing the magnetic polarity and coil polarity of one of the dynamic drivers.
I don't get it.
I don't either. I'm not sure what it means. I'm not sure what it does, but whatever it does, this thing sounds fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Now, the earpieces do have an old school look.
They do.
So you have a driver complement that's kind of old school, this 3D printed shell that's kind of old school looking, kind of big too, but it's very comfortable on me.
Yeah.
But I still think it's one of the most beautiful IEMs.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that we've been sent. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Now, here are my notes. The Fei One is easily one of my favorites of the IEMs that Music Tech sent for this preview video. It's so good, and I have so in italics. Now, I don't know when I wrote that, because I will say unequivocally at this point that it is my favorite of the things Music Tech sent. So much to love about this. Now, okay, I will say this. It's a very exhilarating sounding IEM, and I can't, since we hadn't had a chance to live with it, I don't know if there's anything, if I did live with it, that I'd find fatiguing, tiring, or anything like that.
Right.
I don't think so, though. I mean, I listened carefully even today, just to try to see if that's, and I would say no. I would say I'd probably love these as long as I listen to them.
Yeah.
Here are some other notes. The Aroma Audiophile One does everything well to my ears. It's incredibly resolving, clean, and articulate across its entire range, and has a beautifully balanced tuning. The Fei One's imaging is also outstanding, enveloping. So again, it's a very exciting IEM to listen to. In that the music just jumps out of these things.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd find that fatiguing. I will say if my first impressions are accurate or representative of what I think in the long term with these, one of the best IEMs I've heard.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, every time I put these in and play music through them, I'm excited to listen. So the Aroma Audiophile One, I know who's going to be heading over there. Any of the water cooler team members who haven't yet heard the Fei One, I know they talk about it in the thread, but the ones who haven't heard it yet are going to stop by and listen to this thing, and it's incredible. Headphones.com sent us this. This is the Symphonium Audio Titan.
Yes.
There's a reason I'm holding it and you're not.
Yeah, it's basic.
Yeah, I think it scares you a little bit.
Yeah.
So Brian does not like bass emphasis at all. So I like bass emphasis, but even this tests my upper bounds for sure. I think it goes beyond my upper bounds for bass emphasis in that range of mine. But yet it's a textured, detailed, big bass.
It is.
And it's tuned in such a way that the mids and the highs, to me, seem largely left alone. Like the way they integrate that is actually, it must be a pretty steep shelf. So anyways, I want to quote somebody from the Head-Fi forums.
Yeah.
A guy named Click.
Yeah.
And what he said about these, because I agree with his assessment. He said, the Titan is bass head done right. Dare I say it's the best bass head IEM in the world. That crazy bass shelf doesn't get in the way of the other frequencies, but it's definitely very prominent. Besides the huge bass, everything was balanced, smooth, and detailed. Incredible IEM.
I'll give him that.
Yeah, I get why he's saying that.
Yeah.
And so if I listen with an empathetic ear as someone who loves that much bass, they're going to love this IEM.
Right.
The way you love, because you like some treble presence, probably more than I do, and their Symphonium Crimson.
Oh, I do love that one.
You love that one, and that one is at the upper bounds of my treble limit. So for those who want the bass at that upper end of my bass limit, I think they're going to find this completely magical, like Click said.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it has. It has one 8mm dynamic driver per side, plus 2 custom balanced armatures. And it's reasonably priced, actually. I mean, it's on the premium pricing side, but But it is, I think, going to be a huge hit for anybody that likes something like a campfire trifecta.
Right. Yeah.
And the guys in the water cooler thread, there are a lot of them that seem to love the campfire trifecta.
That's true.
So I imagine headphones.com will have the entire Symphonium lineup. So if you want to hear something Brian absolutely loves, listen for the Symphonium Crimson.
Yeah.
But I think for you guys who want that bass emphasis and you want some sort of like detail and texture, yet have that bass emphasis, the Titan is going to be an absolute can't miss.
Empire Ears will be coming to CanJam SoCal this year, and if you've been paying attention on the forums, you've probably heard about their new Triton. The Triton is a 4-driver tribrid design with 1 balanced armature, 2 bone conduction drivers, and one of Empire's W9 Plus dynamic subwoofers. It comes with their absolutely gorgeous dragonhide faceplates that we've seen previously on the Odin and Valkyrie models. Seriously, these faceplates are stunning. They're currently selling a launch edition of the Triton, which is a limited edition version that comes with several additional features you won't get later on. An exclusive Monarch cable, a blue Pandora case, a blue Opus leather case, and more. Now, I haven't heard the Triton for myself, which means that CanJam SoCal will be my first chance to get some ears on time with it. Do not miss the Empire Ears Triton and the rest of the Empire Ears family at CanJam SoCal.
Let's Sure will be at CanJam SoCal.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're holding their Let's Sure SO8.
Yep.
Now, we talked about that one. I think it was the CanJam Shanghai preview video.
I think that's the one, yeah.
And that is a very affordable IEM. That's
yes,
like
it is.
$99. And as we said in, I think, the Shanghai preview, that it's a 4th generation custom 13mm planar magnetic driver, one on each side, with dual voice coil.
Yeah.
Now, I described its tonal balance, and I think you agree with me, as being on the smooth, non-fatiguing side, resolving beyond what I'd expect at its price.
Yes, I agree.
Of like $99, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one is an easy pick.
And it has a very nice machine housing for that price, too.
Yeah, it's actually extremely well built for the price.
Yeah.
Now, this one is the Let's Sure S12 Anniversary Edition.
Yep.
This one is really fun. So we had fun with this one, even starting with the unboxing. So Brian unboxes it, and he calls me over. He said, check this out. He had opened it up, and it has like a very celebratory packaging,
It does.
to say the least.
Yeah.
So is it gold?
It's
like
gold.
Gold.
Like a rose gold.
And
yeah.
then like a rose gold, and then there's like this, it's an embossed like 8, I think, or something. It's gorgeous. And we open it up, and he pulls out like a keychain. There's some other trinkets, and then there's that.
A little bit of a spinner.
Fidget spinner. I love it. Anyway, I love it. So again, it's to celebrate the anniversary, the 8-year anniversary of Let's Sure. So happy birthday, Let's Sure. And now let's talk about the S12 anniversary. So this is a planar magnetic IEM. One 14.8 millimeter planar magnetic driver per side, lightweight titanium alloy chassis. It's actually a lovely chassis in a black and gold colorway. A 392 strand cable.
Yeah.
So it's actually very nice.
And it has swappable terminations as well.
Yes, it does. 2.5 millimeter, 3.5 millimeter, 4.4 millimeter.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, is it a $299 or $199?
So it's listed currently on their site at $199. So I think that's the regular price.
So right now it's $199.
Yeah.
And even though the Let's Sure SO8 at $99 is quite impressive for the price, in my opinion, I would say this is even more impressive for the price at $199. Relatively speaking. So let's talk about the sound. So we don't have any other S12. So as I understand it, there are other S12 models.
Right.
I haven't heard them. You haven't heard them.
No.
We don't have them here. So the only thing we have to compare it to Let's Sure-wise is the SO8. So here's what I say. Definitely faster and more resolving than the SO8, which is the only other Let's Sure we have here. The Let's Sure S12 Anniversary has mild V-shaped tonal balance. Bass is deep and extended. Mids are clean and detailed, yet with nice body. To my ears, the treble is forward but smooth. Imaging is also better to my ears than the Let's Sure SO8 with a wider soundstage. So again, both are very impressive for the price. The Let's Sure S12, though, which is brand new, is probably the one I think a lot of people at Let's Sure's exhibit are going to want to hear first.
Headfires are no doubt familiar with the name Fat Freak, and bass lovers are no doubt very familiar with them. Fat Freak will be traveling all the way from Singapore to join us in SoCal, and they'll be bringing one of the standout IEMs from this year, the Fat Freak Grand Maestro Anniversary Edition. The Grand Maestro Anniversary is a limited edition version of their flagship Grand Maestro. Inside, you'll find a combination of dynamic, balanced armature, and EST drivers. Combined with Fat Freak's bass cannon technology, a Vox Boost switch to enhance vocal clarity, and their NOAA pressure relief modules, the Grand Maestro delivers several different sound configurations to suit your tastes, assuming you're a lover of bass. We had a chance to audition the Grand Maestro ahead of CanJam London earlier this year, and we came away very impressed. Hear why for yourself at Fat Freak's exhibit. This is the Rainstone Katyusha, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and this is a bit of an outlier compared to everything else we've talked about so far. When it first arrived, I saw in the packaging details that it's intended to be a gaming-focused IEM. So, naturally, I decided to go for some on-the-clock gaming, getting paid to game. After trying the Katyusha in Helldivers 2 and one of my favorite Monster Hunter titles, I feel like this IEM was made for gamers who spend most of their time playing mobile games or while on the go. So if you're someone who enjoys gaming on your morning commute or while out and about, be sure to stop by Rainstone's exhibit and give the Katyusha a try. Now, we've mentioned ELATEC a few times in this preview video because you'll find their family of cables and accessories included with a number of Headfire favorites, and at CanJam SoCal, they'll be unveiling something you won't find anywhere else. This year marks ELATEC's 5th anniversary. Man, has it already been that long? And for their first quinquennial celebration, ELATEC will be showcasing the just-announced ELATEC 5th Ode. ELATEC says that the 5th Ode embraces a steampunk theme, reflecting an ideology of innovation and artistic flair. I do have to say that the hardware I've seen in photos is certainly striking. Inside the 5th Ode, you'll find OCC copper, gold-plated copper, and graphene OCC cable in a 24-gauge 4-wire design. It features ELATEC's FlexiMax insulation, and like several cables in their line, it's also cryogenically treated. It also comes with a horsebutt leather carrying case, and as a leather fan, you know that I'll be checking that out as well. Now, there will only be 150 5th Odes ever released, which means that CanJam SoCal might just be your first and last chance to try it. ELATEC will also have their wildly popular Baroque ear tips, which have quickly become favorites for us here at Headfi HQ, and they become among the very first ear tips we turn to. So this CanJam weekend, stop by the ELATEC exhibit, wish them a happy birthday, and spend some time exploring their entire line.
At CanJam SoCal, the IEM enthusiasts who tend to be most interested in the flagship class cost no object stuff, they are going to have a field day.
Oh, they're going to be eating very well at the show.
They're going to be so busy at the show. So this is one of the latest entrants. This is the Forte Ears Macbeth. This is a new product, a new company.
Yeah.
But it was started by a guy I've known for years, Ricardo Ye, who's had experience working with Hi-Fi Man, with ELATEC. He knows the space.
Right.
And goodness gracious, what a debut from a new company.
Right.
So the Forte Ears Macbeth is an 11-driver tribrid, 5 balanced armature drivers, 4 electrostatic, 2 bone conduction drivers. There are things in a 5-way crossover configuration. There are things about this when I listen to it that remind me of some of my favorite in-ears, flagship in-ears. So, for example, the bone conduction drivers are focused on the mids and upper mids.
Yes.
Reminds me of the first IEM that I think I ever heard with that kind of a configuration, which was the Camper CP622B. And that's a high compliment.
Yes.
The bass, there are times I'm listening to this and it reminds me, for example, of the Subtonic Storm, which also uses all BAs for bass. But the extension and the slam and the texture, love it, right? So it reminds me a little bit of that sometimes. And it does have, again, it's a BA, the Diablo bass driver, they call it, exclusive Sonian customized bass driver.
Yeah.
Okay, well done. Okay, 3D printed resin shell, rhodium plated copper faceplate, gorgeous faceplate, custom 26-gauge 4-wire cable from ELATEC. Also comes with ELATEC Baroque ear tips, which I love. Right. And we have several sets here that I use to help solve fit issues with some of the large bore IEMs that we have. Leather carrying case, $39.99, which I think $4,000. I'd put that in that cost no object price range.
I would too.
Now it does have an optional Ambition upgrade cable, so aptly named Ambition. Because it's also $4,000. It's a 23-gauge, 8-wire design, gold-silver alloy, gold-plated silver, gold-plated copper. Anyway, Forte Ears Macbeth, here's what I think. In the CanJam SoCal Impressions thread, it will probably be one of the most talked about new IEMs, I'm guessing. And I think it's going to go over extremely well. Do not miss this. If you're into the flagship class IEMs, this is a can't miss. Coming all the way from Singapore are Subtonic and Nightjar Acoustics, and we're going to be so thrilled to see them there. I know a lot of IEM enthusiasts are going to be thrilled to find that out. Subtonic makes the legendary Subtonic Storm, an IEM believed by many, myself included, to be one of the best, if not the best, overall IEMs made today. It's so good. We don't have it here, so I can't show it to you. We can show you pictures. So the Storm is a 9-driver tribrid, 1 Subtonic Slam subwoofer, 1 Subtonic Slam woofer. Those are both BAs. 1 BA mid-woofer, 2 BA mid-range, 1 BA mid-tweeter, 1 BA tweeter, 2 EST super tweeters, no dynamics. I only say that because I made the mistake once of saying it had dynamics. An incredible IEM in terms of overall performance. Again, one of the best, if not the best IEMs I have ever heard. Nightjar Acoustics, of course, will have their Singularity. That's the model of theirs that I've spent the most time with, but we don't have that here either. So the Nightjar Singularity is a single dynamic driver design It is quite popular in our community for its rich tonality. And honestly, the first time I heard it, I think I don't remember which, it was like a CanJam London maybe last year was the first time I heard it. And I had to wait in line because everybody wanted to hear it. That is a popular model in our community and for very good reason. So if you haven't heard the Singularity, and I think they also make one called the Duality, make sure to stop by Nightjar's exhibit. So it's so outstanding that we have two of these very well-regarded IEM makers from Singapore coming all the way out to join us. Now, Final is going to be showing up with new IEMs. In fact, I think all but one of them that we have on the table here that we're holding I don't think they're out yet.
I don't think so, yeah.
Okay, I think we're right about that. So what we're holding in our hands here are the Final S4000 and, oh yeah, I'm holding the S5000.
Right.
And they're both dual full-range balanced armature designs. Now, this is according to their text. The S5000 features a brass housing for richer sound, while the S4000 uses aluminum housing for a lighter yet equally impactful experience.
Yeah.
Now, here are my listening notes.
Mm-hmm.
While the S5000 definitely, as Final described it, has a richer tonal balance than the S4000, they sound of a family, with each having a different take on a rich, pleasant, polite signature.
Yes.
And, these are not resolution monsters, but they resolve well, but they are definitely more about just a smooth, relaxing sound to my ears.
Yeah, it's comfortable listening.
Yeah, just the S5000 having a richer such experience and sound signature than the S4000. But for those who like the old straight body, deep insertion Final IEMs.
Yeah, I still carry my E2000.
Yeah. So if for fans of those, I think they definitely want to check these two new models out, the S4000 and the S5000 out at the Final exhibit. Now, the new Final IEM that I'm most excited about, the one I want to talk about the most, is the Final A6000.
Right.
Now, you're holding the Final A8000, which is, I believe, still their flagship IEM.
I think so.
And the reason that we're showing them both is because they're related. So they've released other A models, the A3000, A4000, A5000. I actually haven't heard any of those. And the A6000, they say, represents the latest and closest version to the A8000. Now, they go so far as to say that it's a close clone of the magnificent A8000.
Okay.
I'd say I agree and I disagree. So I agree that they sound of a family.
Right.
And I'll get to their tonal balances in a minute. But I disagree in that I actually find the A6000 to be more to my preference. So independent of price. It actually reminds me a little bit of what Mezza Audio's done with the Alba.
Yeah.
Their very affordable IEM, which I actually prefer to their previously released models that are actually more expensive.
Right.
So anyway, I feel like there's that going on here as well. So here are my notes. In terms of tonal balance, the A6000 to my ears is more refined than the A8000. The A8000 edges the A6000 out in terms of absolute resolving ability, probably owing to the A8000's solid beryllium drivers. Yes, that has solid beryllium drivers, quite rare in our industry, and I think that probably contributes a lot to that resolving ability that it has, and it does. We don't know anything about the drivers in this one yet.
No.
So I believe it's single dynamic per side, but we don't know for sure what they're made of. I don't think at the price that they're likely to be solid brilliant, but anyways, that does have it. Anyways, I say all that said, I think I'd take the A6000 over the A8000, even if they were the same price. And again, I believe these are going to be quite a bit more affordable.
Yeah.
I'd miss some of the textural things that the A8000 has over the A6000, but for me, the A6000 pulls ahead overall with that tonal balance. So what is the tonal balance for both of them? I would say leaner, faster, forward sound. On the leaner side of neutral, like the A8000, but with smoother, more refined treble than the A8000, where the A8000 plays at or even just above my treble preference range. I prefer the more smooth, refined treble of the A6000 as I hear it. So if you want to hear what is, regardless of the price here, my new final favorite IEM, make sure to check out the A6000 at Finals exhibit. Lime-Ears is a veteran IEM manufacturer from Poland, and somehow it wasn't until I heard this model, the Lime-Ears Terra, that I'd familiarized myself with the Lime-Ears IEM. Now, this Terra arrived very late in our production here, so I haven't had much time with it. I just wanted you to know, though, that the Lime-Ears Terra will be at CanJam SoCal, and I wanted to say a quick word about the Terra, give you a quick first impression. The Lime-Ears Terra is a 6-driver hybrid IEM with a 4-way crossover. It uses one 7mm titanium diaphragm dynamic driver for infra-sub frequencies, 2 BAs for low mids, 2 BAs for mid-highs, and one 2023 Knowles RAU new generation BA for ultra-high frequencies. First impressions, the Limeers Terra is a wonderful sounding IEM with excellent bass from that titanium dynamic driver and a signature that's within my range of neutrality, but definitely straddling my upper range of treble preference. A sparkling, crisp, resolving treble that is probably from what Limeers calls the Terra's hero super tweeter. I'm going to listen to the Limeers Terra more after we're done with this preview video, and I encourage you to check it out at CanJam. Emil Stalecky from Limeers confirmed for us that you'll be able to listen to the Terra at the Effect Audio and Music Tech exhibits. We're holding two IEMs from a company called AME from Korea.
Yeah.
They are probably going to be new to a lot of headfires. They're not so new to me because I met the founder, Jae-Gun Song, a couple of CanJam Singapores ago. He had me listening to a prototype of what would eventually become what I'm holding, which is their new flagship, the AME Musa, which is Greek for muse. And it's a 15-driver hybrid, 13 balanced armatures, and 2 bone conductors per side. It's a lovely sounding IEM. We're going to get to the sound in a second. They say it's the world's first earphone shells and plates made using pure copper mokumegane blocks, which is a Japanese metalworking procedure which produces a mixed metal laminate with distinctive layered patterns, kind of like Damascus steel on a knife blade.
Yeah,
that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah,
gorgeous chassis.
It is.
Again, pure copper. It has faceplates that look kind of almost like ancient coins.
Yeah.
And they use 5-axis CNC machining, and it takes 10 hours to produce one pair of earphone shells, and they look and feel like it. It looks like it takes at least that long to make. Now, even though they're a bit heavier because they're copper, I find that the weight distribution, the way he distributed the weight, makes them fit very securely in my ears and comfortably. So that's nice. Now let's talk about the sound. So on Music Tech's website, because these are going to be at the Music Tech exhibit, AME's special tuning features deep bass, clear vocals, and a wide sense of space in all directions.
Accurate.
I think so, too. I actually talk about, in my notes, the rich, lush bass because it does have a richer tone overall to my ears.
Right.
But with air, like in the treble, that gives it, I think, some of that imaging that Music Tech's talking about. But that richness helps. It really does help define its overall signature.
Right.
And for those people, like in the water cooler thread, there are several members in there who like that sound signature.
Yeah.
Gonna love the AME Musa.
Yep.
So this new flagship from AME is a can't miss for anybody looking to try any of these kind of cost no object flagships. So you're holding the AME Raven, which until the Musa came out was one of 2 co-flagships in the AME line, the other one being a model that we don't have here. I'm not really familiar with it, called the AME Gaia.
Yeah.
So the Raven, though, which we do have here, and I quite enjoy, is a 12-driver hybrid, 8 Sonian BA drivers, and 4 electrostatic tweeter drivers per side. And it comes with an AME Old and Wise cable. I love the name.
Yep.
Platinum plus gold plus silver alloy, 8-core design, terminated in 4.4 millimeters. It's actually quite a nice cable. Now, here's what I say about the sound. The Raven is more traditional sounding, more neutral to my ears than the lusher sounding Musa. I hear the Raven is slightly mid-forward and has treble that's smooth, refined, and quite detailed. The Raven also images beautifully. I think the Raven may have a wider appeal with headfires than the Musa. Again, I'd say it's a bit more traditionally tuned for a flagship class IEM, and it is. So that, I would say, is more up, like in terms of my taste, that's closer to my tastes than the Musa. But for those who prefer a lusher sounding flagship type IEM, I think the Musa will be preferred.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious about this Gaia.
Me too.
I want to hear what this co-flagship sounds like. But the one thing I know is, again, for most headfires, AME is going to be a new company, so they should definitely be checked out, and they'll be at the Music Tech exhibit at CanJam SoCal. Now, I wanted to also quickly mention some of the IEMs that I've been personally using and enjoying quite a lot that we have not yet talked about, but that I want to make sure you know will be at CanJam SoCal this year. I'll start with the Kanper CP622B and the Kanper CP74E. These 2 IEMs are among the best IEMs I've heard at any price, and I can't believe that I had not even heard of Kanper until CanJam London last year. The CP622B has 6 BAs, 2 ESTs, and 2 mid-range bone conduction drivers per side. The CP74E has 7 balanced armatures and 4 ESTs per side. And again, these are 2 of the top IEMs available today, in my opinion. You should be able to find the Kanper IEMs at Music Tech's exhibit. The 64 Audio Velour is another IEM that I've been using a lot because I find the bass from its incredibly innovative cone-to-magnet isobaric driver configuration simply superb. Just incredible bass that can be tuned by swapping their Apex modules. Bass that reminds me of one of my favorite loudspeakers of all time. Now, in addition to the 2 isobarically loaded dynamic drivers, the Velour also has 8 BAs per side, one of which is a 64 audio TIA driver. So the Velour is a phenomenal all-rounder IEM too. It's definitely not just its bass that I love, and you should be able to find the 64 audio Velour at Bloom Audio's exhibit. I'd expect Bloom Audio will also have the Visioneers VE10, assuming it's not completely sold out, as I think it was a limited edition. The Visioneers VE10 is a 10-driver design using 1 dynamic driver and 9 BAs per side. The moment we heard the Visioneers VE10, it quickly became one of our reference IEMs here at HeadFi HQ. And whether or not the VE10 is sold out, I expect Bloom Audio will have the rest of Visioneers' lineup of IEMs, one of my favorite families of IEMs, period. By the way, we expect Bloom Audio will also have many other IEMs at their exhibit. I know Bloom Audio also carries IEMs by Dita, Flip Ears, IceLab, and so many more. But at the time of shooting here, we weren't able to confirm exactly which IEMs Bloom will have at the show.
Now, before we move on, there are a few more IEM stops at CanJam SoCal that you won't want to miss. Acoustics is a CanJam SoCal veteran at this point, and they'll be bringing their full lineup of IEMs to the show. We ran into Rocky Sharma, their co-founder and chief marketing officer, at the Hong Kong AV show back in August, and Rocky let slip that they may be showcasing something brand new at their CanJam SoCal exhibit, so be sure to stop by and see what's new, and to check out the other acoustic IEMs as well. Now, while I primarily associate Audio-Technica with my favorite full-size headphone in their lineup, I do want to note that they will have a range of IEMs available for you to try at the show. One of the IEMs I'm hoping will be there is the ATH TWX7, which was announced during CES around the beginning of the year. The reviews I've seen online have me thinking this will be a must audition for me. Another company my mind first associates with full-size headphones is Technics, and they too will have a number of IEMs on hand for you to audition. They have a couple of true wireless models in their line, but the in-ear that speaks to me most is the EAH TZ700 10mm dynamic driver IEM. For many of us, CanJam SoCal is the only place to audition the Technics EAH TZ700, so be sure to grab the chance while it's here.
Well, that was an incredibly long video. I'm not sure about you guys, but I think I might actually have butt sores, and I don't even have a butt. Now, thank you all so very much for watching this whole thing. I'm sure you've watched every single minute of it. And again, CanJam SoCal is taking place on September 28th and 29th at the Irvine Marriott. Now, make sure to hit like and subscribe and to start packing for CanJam SoCal. We'll see you there and on the forums at headfi.org.